How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Through the Snakevine. I have an awesome guest tonight. This is Zach from Nava Reptiles. How's it going, Zach?
What's going on, guys? Doing well, man. Doing well. No
Good,
complaints.
good. Yeah, so I thought we'd bring Zach on here and just learn a little bit more about what he's got going on and how he kind of got into things and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe we can kind of start by you letting us know like when everything kind of started for you in terms of when you got into reptiles and maybe how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, man. I've told this story, a little bit before, but in terms of just like snakes and things like that, I mean, I remember being a kid and like going outside with my sister and my cousins and stuff and like finding little garter snakes in the yard and sneaking them into the house and getting in trouble. I remember at one point, I think I was in like first grade. We had two snakes and like literally both of them got lost in the house. I don't think we ever told my mom that we lost them. Like they like got out of our hands, or they were like sitting on the carpet and they just like disappeared under the couch and just like never saw them again. So we're just like, all right, we just won't talk about this when our parents get home from work. So yeah, that is, sorry mom if you see this later. I don't know if like I said, I really don't know if I ever told her that, but yeah. And then like I had family in upstate New York. And a cousin of mine up there, I would go and spend like a month with them out of the summer, like after the first couple years, because like I just loved it up there because they had like an 83-acre property, and we could just go. There was a creek across the street. We'd go swim in the freaking creek. Like I was that kid, when I was young, just like in nature, walking around in the woods and just, stuff like that. And so, that was really where it started. I've always been into animals. I think I've said it before, like my first word was dog. Not mom, not dad, but dog. so like, literally like for as long as anyone can remember, that's always been my thing is animals. We had a green iguana when I was a kid that was like a rescue that my mom was given by a friend of hers that she worked with that she couldn't keep anymore.
Wow.
So that was like our first reptile that I remember having. But then I had like a fire belly toad and what was the other one? Like a fire belly newt or something. I don't know. Yeah,
Crazy.
I think that was it. Yeah. So I had a couple of those, but like I couldn't have snakes. Like my mom was just like deathly afraid of them. And so my first snake was when I was in high school, when I was living with my dad. I was able to get a ball python, and that was my first ball python. And I wish, I said it before, like, it's one of those moments where, like, I wish I would have looked a little bit further into things. Not because I did anything wrong, but because if I would have, like, dove into ball pythons then, dude, I would be, there's no telling where I'd be. Because I had my first ball python in, like, 2003, 2004. Yep. And I remember stumbling upon king snake, and I'm still a paranoid person, and I was just like the idea of like buying a snake on the internet because I was looking at pricing, and I'm like, I had priced this normal ball python from the local pet store for like $100 or whatever I paid for it, and I could have gotten something like way cooler online, at the time, but I was like, nah, this seems shady, because it was basically looked like the king snake back in the day. For me, it doesn't know. It was like kind of looked like a Craigslist. Like it was just it was kind of shady looking if you weren't familiar with what it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kick myself all the time for not researching a little bit more and being a little more patient because there's like I said, there's no telling where I'd be at in the hobby now, but things happen the way they're meant to. So I got back into snakes. Probably like 3 to 4 years ago, maybe. I think about 4 years ago, and I didn't get into snakes initially. I actually got a bearded dragon first.
Nice.
And I had no intentions of breeding or anything like that. I was just like, I kind of want another pet, besides my dogs, and I'd like to have another reptile. So I got one of those. Then I found Brian Barczyk, and I was like, oh, okay, like ball pythons, like these are freaking crazy now, like same as anybody else. Like, holy crap, like how did I not know that all of this like wild stuff has happened?
Yeah.
And but I was still just like, again, just watching it and kind of on the outside. My girlfriend at the time decides that she wants a snake, so I'm like, all right, cool. So we go to the local Repticon, end up coming home with a female, like subadult normal, and a lemon blast male.
Nice.
The normal was a female, so like we were sold the idea of like breeding these things and like whatever, which Yeah, anybody that's breeding a normal to one of those, like, by all means, that's cool. But
Yeah, of course.
It's clearly I've gone way past those plans at this point of making, pastel pinstripes and stuff like that. Which again, I still think lemon blasts are beautiful, but yeah, still not really where I want to be right now.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, that's the thing too, is like when you're first starting out, just I think it's more so just the thought of it, like just getting into it, and wherever you're starting, it's great if you want to get into it. But yeah, I think once you start really diving into it, it just gives you more motivation to get into that kind of at least a little bit higher projects.
Yeah, well, I mean, everybody's got to get their feet wet at some point, like it's not like we went to, like, 'cause we went to that Repticon just planning on taking home a pet snake, and then, I, of course, like, already kind of liked the thought of breeding, but it wasn't something that was like some big goal of mine, I had already decided, like I said, when I bought my bearded dragon, I got a male. Like, breeding really wasn't a plan. And then I kind of considered it, but until I realized just how fast those things multiply, and just like and I still feel this way. I think there's too many people breeding bearded dragons, in my opinion, just because you see how many of them end up in just terrible care.
Unfortunately.
And so and again, that's like not a dig on the bearded dragon market or anybody that breeds them or whatever. I just think that you do have to be very, very thoughtful and mindful of like how many you're producing, because I mean, I think those things can like triple or quadruple clutch every year, and I mean, they can have a ton of freaking eggs. There's just a lot. It's a lot. And in my opinion, lizards require just way more care. Daily care, as opposed to a snake.
Yeah.
It's easy to house 30 snakes for, somebody that wants to put in the work of cleaning them a couple times a week and staying on top of things. But to have that many bearded dragons is a whole nother level of care.
Oh, absolutely.
So just my opinion.
Just even like space requirement alone is big, and like, you see all these posts too where people are keeping the babies like in together for a little bit longer than they should.
Yeah, and then they start eating each other and crazy stuff. Yeah, I think Kathleen, she had started breeding them, I think, at one point. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kathleen, but yeah, like it's just crazy. Like I for something where if I have one pair of them, I can produce 100 in a year. Yeah, I'm like, for something that could put, again, because like for a project as a ball python breeder, if you've got two snakes, a male and a female, you might produce, if you produced a crazy clutch, you might have 12, which is highly unlikely that you're going to end up with 12. But if you had 12, most people could try to figure out a way to sell 12 snakes, or move those along. For like somebody that just started breeding bearded dragons and you've got two of them and you just produced 100 babies in a year, where the hell are you selling 100 babies? Unless you really, really planned it out right, which we already know the average person doesn't do. Because even ball python people don't plan out where their babies are going to go.
No,
so,
man. You have a small idea, but
just again, like I said, I'm not trying to be negative about stuff. It's just I'm just not a huge fan of in my personal position. It's not something that I would breed. So I got out of that pretty quick, and then I quickly ended up being the one that took over the ball python kind of breeding side of what she and I were doing, and yeah, it was very quickly downhill from there, obviously.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. It's that's the thing. Like, I mean, if you're getting into beardies and you do have that time and you have the space and you're controlling the environment more so in terms of how much they are going to produce. No offense to anyone who's obviously breeding them, but like,
sure, because I love them. I think they're great. Like I got rid of my male that I had. I actually sold him to a breeder because I was like, because he had great genetics. I mean,
yeah,
I've got as most of us do, like I've got particular taste into things. Like if I'm going to get into it, I'm like, well, I might as well get like a couple genes in there,
Yeah.
And so so he was like a hypo something. I don't know. He was beautiful. He was a hypo tiger, like yellow, these beautiful blue bands on his back. I mean, he was not nothing crazy high end, but he was a nice male. Anyways, I moved him along to a breeder, and I'm sure that he's doing well for her. I know that last I'd heard he was breeding to like 3 or 4 of her females, so I'm sure he's happy where he's at. But I have debated on getting another one just because I'm like, I kind of miss having that.
Yeah, no, dude. But yeah. I do miss having a beardie. That was one of the first reptiles I got into, so it was like, they still do have a special place in my heart. But I do remember how much work goes into them, you know,
Yeah.
like, and just even the daily feeding for me,
Yeah.
it's not like it's impossible to keep up to, especially if you have one. Like, I mean, that's
Yeah,
not really that
but
bad, but
yeah, I mean, and like one to even 3 or 4, you know, you
Yeah.
can, because to me the level of care at that point is still pretty much the same. You're if you're cutting vegetables for 1, you can chop up vegetables for 4 or whatever.
Absolutely.
But yeah, but I'm not cutting vegetables for myself every day, so you know, to ask me to do that for a lizard is a lot. And then on top of that, you know, if, at least especially for where I'm at right now with you know, I want to travel for shows and stuff like that. Unless you've got somebody else, you know, at home that can help you out with that care, that's another kind of thought to think about, you know. And so for me, it's just not feasible right now to have something that really has to have daily care, you know, absolutely has to. So.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, and I think that was one of the reasons I ended up landing on snakes overall. Like, I've had many different reptiles, like yourself, but
Yeah.
I think it was just that, you know, even though I do check on my snakes every day, it's not necessarily that constant every day. You need to do this, you need to do that, right? It's a little bit still.
And we like to have, you know, the plethora, you know, like we like to have, you know, especially if it's something that you do want to produce. I mean, obviously, you know, you need something that you can easily kind of take care of more than just one.
Yeah.
And snakes definitely, you know, fit that. I mean, all my, you know, again, we all know snakes are not hard to take care of. They're just even when you've got 30 of them, you know.
Yeah, seriously.
A couple days a week, it's easy for one person to deal with. So.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think like through your lives, obviously, I've learned a little bit about how you kind of came up to it, but I figured I'd ask, you know, in case.
I didn't mean to start off by like, well, I've already answered this before.
No,
because there's obviously people that don't know.
It's one of the go-to questions, and like even when I'm on other people's lives, you feel like you've said it so many times, but then there are
it's hard because you forget that not everybody has like. Sorry, bro. I mean, everybody's definitely seen every piece of content I've ever put out on the internet. For sure. Everybody knows everything about me. Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal. Yeah, no, I get it, man. But yeah, you know, it's because like Garrett has these weekly lives that he does for his Patreon, which are great. But like at a certain tier, you get like a 40-second spot, and every week I'm like, is there even anybody new in here? Because like. He's like, you know, talk about yourself for 40 seconds. I'm like, dude, I said this same thing last week. He's like, well, there's new people here. I'm like, oh, okay, well then, yeah, I will just repeat myself ad nauseum. You know, sorry to everybody else that's already heard this, but yeah. So no, it's all good, man.
Then you you get like one thing wrong, and they're like, wait a second.
Yeah, they're like, last week you said, yeah. So yeah, it does because like I said, like, well, but and also like you forget little details. Like this week, I think was the first time, like I said, I mentioned the losing the snakes in the house when I was a kid. So you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
the story changes a little bit every time I tell it.
That's what I mean.
It's all good.
Because you start remembering other stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, actually there was this too. You know, like.
Right.
But,
shut up, Jeremy. He's down in the comments. Who's this Zach character? Everybody knows who I am. Yeah. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah. So this one, I think I remember you mentioning, and you probably mentioned it quite a few times.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Fire away.
How did you become Master Ultramel?
So this freaking story is hilarious, at least to me, because it was just like. It was during, I think it was during I guess we're still in a pandemic, whatever. It was during, like, when I wasn't working.
Yeah.
During lockdown here in North Carolina. So for those who don't know, I've been a member of Brian Cusco's Patreon, like, basically for as long as it exists. Like, it was the first Patreon I ever spent money on. And so, but then, you know, I was bartending and stuff, and so I was never really, like, super active in, like, he didn't have a Discord for a long time, and then when it came around, I don't think I was in there right away. And then, you know, he does like weekly Zoom meetings and stuff, but they were on Tuesday nights, and I had to work, so I was never really super active in there. So obviously, once COVID happened and I wasn't working anymore, like I never missed another Zoom call after that. I still don't think I've missed any since, which has been
nice.
Like a really nice thing, you know, because like now, like how most of the people in the comments that are people that I know, like that's where I know them from. You know, that's really like where I started. You know, like branching out into knowing people in this hobby, which has been great.
That's awesome.
It's such a great community, man, and not even just like Cusco's, but all of those, like all those groups, like, you know, like Billy's and just everybody's stuff that they've got going on between Discords and Patreons and stuff, dude, it's great for anybody that's just starting in the hobby. I think that's like the best investment you can make in terms of just like finding your kind of community, like Aurora said. Like, it really is. It's like a little family. It's just awesome.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome.
Getting back to where I was trying to kind of go with that, to the Master Ultramel thing. So I got, you know, I got real active in that community and into that, and you know, Discord, and every single time we have one of those Zoom meetings, the way they are now, they're always after Brian's lives that he does every Tuesday. So, you know, he has his guests scheduled to be live on his YouTube channel, and then they're live with all of us, our little family group afterwards, which it can be a lot for anybody. What's up, Chris? Thanks for being here, man. Chris is one of the guests that jumped in, and he can attest to this. Every single guest consistently, I would raise my hand in the Zoom call and ask them what their thoughts on Ultramel was. As long as it was somebody that was like remotely in the ball python community, like they were aware of the gene. There were some people that, like, somebody asked them that, like, hey Zach, ask him about Ultramel. I'm like, this is like a boa genius. Like this is like, it was, I can't remember who it was, but it was like he's like one of like the founding people of boa breeding. And I'm like, I'm not disrespecting this person that way. Yeah. So I think somebody ended up like asking the question for me. Anyway, so it became literally like a running joke. The thing was, I wasn't kidding. Like it's kind of like, in my mind, it's like market research. Like, I ask anyone that will listen, like, hey, what are your thoughts on Ultramel? Because I genuinely want to know what are other people thinking about the project that I'm working in. But it became funny for everyone in my little family group of Cusco's Patreon, like on these Zoom calls. They're like, like to the point that Cusco started. He would start the Zoom calls, and then he would say, all right, let's just go and get the first question out of the way. Zach, go ahead. And everyone would chuckle. So, I mean, it just became like I was just the Ultramel guy, and everybody thought it was funny. So I wake up one morning, and I go to check the Discord, and I'm like, you know your name on the Discord, like you can change it or whatever.
Yeah.
I answered something that somebody had asked or something like that, or I like said good morning or something, and I see my name in there is Master Ultramel. And I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, okay, obviously, like, you know, Cusco or somebody like changed my name to Master Ultramel. So I'm laughing, you know, and like somebody made a comment about it. They were like, how long do you guys think it, like I saw in part of the Discord, it was like, how long do you guys think it's gonna take Zach to notice, blah blah blah. So I had a good laugh at it or whatever, and then I was same thing. I'm also in Garrett's, Patreon I mentioned before, and he's got a Discord.
Yeah.
Somebody, and I didn't know at first. I thought that somebody had I was trying to figure out how they had done it. They changed my name in Garrett's Patreon Discord to Master Ultramel. So I'm like, did somebody somehow get access to my account and change, because I'm a moderator in there. So I'm a moderator in Garrett's. So I'm trying to figure out how it would happen. I don't see it anywhere, and I can't figure it out. So I'm like, what the hell? Come to find out, I think it was Kathleen. Somebody had reached out to one of the members in Garrett's Discord. That's also is one of the moderators, and got them to change my name in Garrett's Discord also to Master Ultramel.
Oh my God.
So they just played this joke on me, and so I was like, you know what, guys, if y'all got jokes, I'm just gonna lean into this. I'm just gonna just leave it and just see, but it's still awkward, because the thing is, I'm always afraid that people that don't know me, or people that first get introduced to me, when they see that, they're gonna be like, oh, this guy's pretentious. What an asshole. Does he not realize how many other people, like Dean Van Omeron in the Netherlands, I would say is 100 steps ahead of most people with the Ultramel project. He's already got, what did he have? It's an ultra, Billy has bought Ultramel snakes from Dean. Right, put it that way. Gotcha. He's got Ultramel, visual Ultramel, Desert Ghost, Krypton, pastel, crazy stuff. He's way ahead of where I could hope to be, and that's just him in the Netherlands. There's people in the United States that are way further ahead. Marshall Mendez is, in my opinion, I think he's the go-to guy for Ultra Clowns now. He's produced those for the last 2 or 3 years, visual Ultra Clowns. So nice. I'm by no means actually the Master Ultramel. But like I said, my whole thing is like I think I've talked about it before. I like to talk about Ultramel because again, it's the project I'm working in. So why am I not going to talk about it? And through that, I can promote it. I can get other people talking about it by me asking questions. It gets other people thinking in their own minds like, oh yeah, what about this gene?
Yeah.
And so it has. It's like I said, as much as it's been like awkward for me. Kind of owning that name, like Billy himself, like Billy from Mutation Creation refers to me as Master Ultramel on his streams. Like, it's awesome, yeah, but like you have to understand how red my face used to get. Like I've kind of gotten used to it now, and I really do hope that people that don't know me don't think that I'm an asshole for having that name or whatever. Because and I hope that's why I'm always glad when people ask me so I can clarify like exactly why. I do go by that, but yeah, I just like I said, it's my gene. It's the gene that I'm working with. It's what my entire collection is centered around, and I hope one day to be able to earn the title that I've already been given. So yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, that's what I wanted to ask because like I mean, for anyone who hasn't really who didn't know or whatever, but it's just funny because like even when I can't remember which live it was with Billy, but like they were talking about Ultramel and they're like, "Where's Zach?" Like, let's ask Zach.
Yes, literally. And I was like, don't ask me at all. Because, what it was somebody had mentioned, they were like, oh, is there a het marker for Ultramel? And, like, Austin's on there. Like, Austin probably knows more about Ultramel and you know what I mean? Like, or at least as much as I do.
Right.
And Billy's like, oh yeah, where's Zach? Ask Zach. He would definitely know if there's a het marker for Ultramel. And I'm like, I don't think there is, but I don't want to say that there's not because somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and be like, there definitely is. As far as I'm aware, there definitely is not any kind of het marker for Ultramel.
You call yourself a master?
Yeah, like, but it what like I want everybody in the chat like to think about that, or anybody watching this afterwards, like. I am a self-proclaimed nobody in this hobby, and you're talking about Billy fucking Rose of Mutation Creation. He was not kidding. He was not joking in the slightest. He was 100% serious.
Yep.
We need to ask Zach because Zach would definitely know if there is one. And I'm like, what fucking planet am I living on right now? It's literally like what started out as a joke from Brian Cusco has like completely blown up in everyone's face in some very strange ways.
Yeah.
Where now there's people in the comments talking about it. Like I talk about Ultramel so much, and I still do, and I will continue to do this. But I talked about Ultramel to the point that people had made a drinking game about it behind my back. and started like, oh yeah, we're gonna drink every time Zach says Ultramel, and I'm like, you guys are gonna freaking like have liver failure, like y'all better be careful because like I'm not gonna dial it back for anybody's health.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what?
I was gonna say like if we were doing that tonight, we'd already be done because like we've already said it. I don't know.
Yeah, well, like I'd be on live streams and people are like, Zach, you need a drink. I'm like, I just chugged a beer. I don't know what more I can possibly do and still talk.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't go anywhere this right now. Like,
so yeah.
Man. That's
I'm still not drinking for January because like I literally had people reaching out to me. They're like, Zach, like, what's going to happen to the Ultramel game? I'm like, well, I mean, I'd kind of stopped playing that a while ago because it was going to freaking kill me.
Yeah.
But, like, I'll be drinking water. You guys do whatever you feel is necessary. Like, you guys can keep it up if you want. But, like, I want to make it clear that, like, I'm not going to have a lawyer calling me in a year that, like, somebody's got cirrhosis and that it's my fault for starting the Ultramel game or something. Like,
it was Master Ultramel, I tell you.
Yeah, like, I want to make it very clear. Like, I am not liable for anybody's health issues that come up from playing the Ultramel game. So yeah, I don't encourage it.
No, but that's awesome, man. I mean, like it's like you said, it's just cool because because of your love for that gene, and you are a nice guy. You put yourself out there, and you support a lot of people. But you bringing that gene up, it really does help, like push it in a sense, right? You're not pushing it on people, but you're putting it in people's minds, and you're bringing it to the surface a little bit more, which it deserves because it's an awesome gene. So it's cool in that sense as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that was it was part of my intent, but I never expected it to go the way that it did. Like I all I ever wanted was sure, like people to associate me with Ultramel. So again, like if it came up in conversation, like, oh, my buddy Zach, works with that. That was all I was ever looking for. but like you said, what I realized really quickly was that the more that I talked about it, that it was going beyond that, to the point that not only was I associated with it, like I was noticing more people talking about it in general.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm like, wow, like it's cool that somebody that is as small as me, you know, can actually have an effect from in terms of marketing for this project, you know, just by talking about it, you know. And so that was a really cool side effect. And again, I tell people all the time, like, I don't know that I have personally directly impacted the project by making it more popular, or like causing prices to go up or whatever, because obviously Kabilka works with it and he talks about it a lot regardless, you know, he posts about it and things. You know, and it's easy for me to say that, oh, well, I see people talk about it. Well, of course I do, because it's that law of attraction. Like, if you're thinking about red cars, all you see everywhere is red cars.
Absolutely.
So it's hard for me to really quantify that, you know, yeah, I've definitely had an effect, but I like to think that I have, which is cool.
I think to some degree, right? Like I said, it may, obviously we're no Kabilkas, but like I think, you know, just even when you're
having that presence,
people are like Ultramel, you know, like Ultramel, like, so I think it pops up more often, and it just kind of makes, like I said, it's cool that, and I do respect the fact that you are working with the gene so strongly too, because I think, you know, sometimes it's hard to stay on track for us because there's so many like amazing things out there. It's really hard to stay on track.
Yeah, we talked about that too, you know. And I think this is an important thing, like for new people and for people that have been in this for a while, right? Because I think I've told you, you know, we talked about it, that like when I first got in, you know, I wanted like one of everything. And I kind of knew that I needed to have a direction in terms of like one recessive project that I could work just from a financial standpoint, because it's very expensive to try to have one of everything if you're talking recessives, you know. Or even just one of every gene, you know, that you like. And so I picked a few things that I thought that were nice, and I always kind of planned on just making my own heads. I said it not that long ago, and it was in Billy's stream, because I kind of, I don't want to say I forgot, but I just hadn't thought about it. Gavin from Balls to You was actually the first person that got me into Ultramel. He was actually one of the first YouTubers that I really followed a lot and watched a lot of his stuff early on, because I just really like his energy. I still do. I love Gavin. He's a great freaking guy. And when he jumped in on Billy's stream the other night, I almost felt like I was like almost being annoying, because I was just like really trying to hype him up to people, because I'm like, dude, like, the fact that he's here and like interacting with us is like amazing. Like, and it was like a real like celebrity moment for me, because I'm like, this really is like one of the, like, aside from Barchek, like this is one of the first people that got me excited about ball pythons, and like who I learned about breeding from and things like that. Let alone also is the one that's responsible for me being in the project that you guys know me for, is Gavin. Like it was just really, really cool, like getting have like even a little bit of go, you know, back and forth with him. And having him, you know, like welcome. He's like, welcome to Ultramel, and I wanted to be like, I've been in this for like 2 years. Thank you. Like, I'm not new to Ultramel. Like, I'm the Master Ultramel, in case you didn't know. Like, but yeah, like, so that was really nice, man. So it's
really nice, you know.
So I you know, I took his kind of advice early on for most people, was like, make your own hats, you know. Find really nice examples, like we talked about, like that leopard. That was why I have that leopard that I love so much. I wanted to make hats with her because she's so pretty. You know, things like that. So that's why I've been able to sort of stay the course of just having a single gene, and it was mostly just because it's expensive to not. Like,
it is, seriously, man.
And then you end up spinning your wheels in a lot of projects, because if you're trying to work 5 recessive projects at a time, unless you've got a lot of fucking money to spend, or you don't mind the idea that over the next 8 years you're not going to produce anything that you really love, like a really great visual combo, which is fine. Like, if you're that patient, if you're that patient, I'm happy for you. I know for a fact I'm not that fucking patient. I realized that pretty quickly when I started looking at my breeding plans and things. I'm like, fuck, if I make all hets this year, like, that means I'm like 5 or 6 years away from producing anything visual that I'm really excited about. And that, again, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
It just doesn't get me excited necessarily. And so the more... So I've just always stayed on the lookout for you know, for things, and like I would literally, like, if I had a little money to spend, I would text Justin like, hey man, you got anything for sale in Ultramel that you might want to let go, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's how I ended up with like my hinge pin of my collection right now, which is his visual Mojave Ultramel male.
Yeah.
And a female. I bought them both at the same time. It was a visual Mojave Ultramel male that was his breeder that he was retiring. So I got that, which is great. And then I picked up a baby from him at the same time that wasn't even listed yet. It was a fire yellow belly spot nose 100% het for Ultramel. Which like at the time it was the most expensive snake I had bought, and I think now. And again, this is what's cool about the Ultramel project and why I'm just like, it's very validating. I think that same female, if he sold it today, because I've seen some, not the same genetic combination, but a similar genetic combination, is like double the price that I paid. Awesome. That I paid, 2 or 3 years ago. So that's really exciting. It's really exciting to see, because it should be the opposite, right? Like normally at any project, an animal that you buy after 2 or 3 years, the price has gone down on. Like you could get it cheaper today than you got it for when you bought it. The difference is obviously now it's a fully grown female versus buying a baby. So she's gone up in value on her own anyways. But yeah, so she should hopefully give me eggs this, soon. She's that female I've talked about it, man. She keeps freaking teasing me. She's got big follicles, but now like my male won't eat, and so I can't pair him again to her to like really make sure he's gonna get the job done. I mean, I could, but I don't want to risk killing my male. I'm gonna double check the dates and maybe I'll roll the dice on pairing him one more time. But like he will not eat right now. He's just
how long has it been now since because he hasn't been eating?
That's what I was gonna say. I need to actually check my records. I'm gonna look at it right now. I'll pull it up on Reptile Scan and kind of let you guys know, but yeah, that's been kind of frustrating, just not not having him keep doing what he needs to do. And he only eats live is the other part of that, which just drives me crazy. Just because it's a little more work to have to go, and I only have 2 snakes that do that. So yeah, he hasn't eaten since. I mean, he ate a medium on November 28th, so it's not like it's been forever and a day. But I mean, that's almost 2 months with no food.
Yeah.
And trying to, again, like he probably would be okay because he ate November 28th, but then prior to that he hadn't eaten since November the 6th. So it's like he's eating like every 3 weeks to a month, which is probably okay for breeding. If anybody's down in the comments, like Jeremy, I know Jeremy was probably a good one to ask. Jeremy from Cure. Jeremy, let me know your thoughts on that, man. If you had a male that he was eating like once a month for the last couple months and hadn't eaten in 2 months, would you still pair him? Yeah. Or would you risk it?
Drop us some info, Jeremy. That'd be awesome. For me, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I would be tempted, but then at the same time, I'd be kind of nervous, because I wouldn't want to make it any worse. But then at the other side of me is like, how much worse will it make it? Like, will it make it any worse, or is it going to be kind of consistent?
Right. Because my thought was, I'm like, well, if I pair him, I know he'll lock. Like, that snake, he's a machine. Like, he's an absolute machine. If I put him in, every female I've put him in with, I'm not kidding, within an hour, he's locked up. Like, he's a
no wonder
he's a beast. Yeah, he's a beast. He doesn't
care. He's like, man, let's just
do it. Yeah, I'm telling you, like, he just gets it done, dude. And so I know he would lock, but my concern is that it will kind of hit that reset button. Hell, I'll pull him out of Jeremy if you kind of take a look at him. I mean, his body size looks fine. He, to me, anyways, he doesn't look skinny or, concerning or anything like that. Oh, dude, you freaking tipped your water over. You fucking doing.
Oh yeah, Jeremy got
so. Let's see. He's a little bit thin. Like you can see that ridge.
Yep.
By his spine. But I mean, he's not like no. I mean, like it's not like I can't feel his ribs or anything weird.
He's still looking good.
Yeah, and this is about what he looks like 90% of the time, anyways. I mean, again, he's not like super sunk in. Obviously, he's like real tensed up right now. And he's a beautiful male, man. This is like
gorgeous, man. Like that. That just goes to show like how like powerful in a good way, how powerful Ultramel is. Like, because it's Mojave Ultramel, right? Like that's it.
Yeah, that's it. That's
crazy, dude.
Yeah, here's the thing I love about this is that, again, like it came from Kabilka, and so it's like it's super exciting. Like every time he hatches out a Mojave like combination that has Ultramel in it, I'm like, I really wonder like if my Ultra, like if that's like part of the lineage from this male,
right?
Because obviously this was a breeder male for him, and so it's like even those Kryptons that he just hatched, like those might be like like a lineage that leads back to this male. So
That's so
it's
cool.
really cool. And then just again, also like for my customers, like Mindy, I think is going to end up getting a Mojave Het Ultramel from me, female. She'll have good a good idea of the bloodlines, you know what I mean, and just the
Yeah, for
quality
sure.
of animal that she's going to be getting and working into that project. So yeah, he's beautiful. But yeah, Jeremy, he literally that's the only other female I'd be pairing him to, is just that one girl.
I'm gonna go
Cool.
back to, there was a question earlier, but I just wanted you to see what Jeremy said, and then also Pipeline kind of came in too and gave some advice for the male. But we'll
Yeah.
go back up to that question.
Jeremy, just to let you know, I went ahead, thanks to your answer and just kind of a little bit of confirmation, I went ahead and just put him in with that female just
That's
now.
awesome. We
So-
should check up on him like later on. See if-
Yeah, because literally, it's like I don't think we got any rain or anything today, but
Yeah.
like based on how quickly that both of those animals usually pair, like it might be on the stream that they end up locking back up. So
Yeah, so I threw up what Pike said there, and then I'll go back because there was a question too about Ultramel.
yeah, I think I saw it, something about lavender with Ultramel.
Yeah.
Yeah, lavender Ultramel pied projects. Honestly, I really don't know because I've never seen it done. I know that I know Billy does a lot of double het caramel Ultramel stuff, but I've not seen like the double visual. So I definitely know it's a thing, but I wouldn't tell anyone ever to not do that. What I would say is it really just it depends on you and what other options you have for your projects, right? Because I think we all are aware at this point, like, to me, the value of a lavender, especially a female, like if you have a female Ultramel that you're not doing anything else with, like just a visual Ultramel female, and you've got like a male visual lavender, by all means, like do that pairing and just kind of have it as like a side project, as like, okay, like whatever comes from this. And your worst case scenario is that you've got double hets, so you can sell those babies to people that are interested in Ultramel, people that are interested in lavenders. So I don't think that like you're wasting time with that, especially again if you had the right male or the right female. It just depends. Like for me, I wouldn't do it because like I wouldn't buy like a high powered lavender male to run to all my Ultramel females that I'm working just to work that project.
Right.
But I think if it's just like you have the right animals kind of playing around with that, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But yeah, I'm not aware of anybody that has worked that direction personally.
Do you think? What do you think is going to take over more? Like, well, obviously lavender is going to take over, but like, what do you think the color palette's going to look like? Like, I don't know if it's been done yet. Has Ultramel?
That's why I say not that I'm aware of. I'm sure that at some point somebody's probably done. I know that like albino has been put to Ultramel. But again, I've never looked that far into it because it's not a direction that I've ever considered going for myself.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because Ultramel is. I'm not sure, Aurora. That's why I say I really don't know if you could produce a double visual, and if you could, I don't know what in the heck that would look like. And just again, like the amount of time that you would put into that project, I don't know. Again, personally, I'm not being negative about it. This is just like my thoughts off the top of my head.
Absolutely, man.
I can't imagine it's anything fantastic. Because I think that with lavender, where those purples and things comes from and all that, like I think lavender's just gorgeous the way that it is, and I think that if you put the two together, like I think they would take away from each other. But that's just my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, that's the thing with these genetics is until we try it, we have no idea. It could be amazing.
Yeah.
Could work out.
Right, and that's why I say I'm all for people experimenting with stuff.
Yeah.
If they have the right animal to do it, like I said, if you had a visual Ultramel that's up to size and you have no Ultramel male to put to her and you don't want to just give her to me, to do stuff with, then yeah, I mean, go ahead, and we'll just see what happens because it could be something amazing. Like we literally that's what's amazing about this hobby and just great about all of these these animals that we work with is like literally we're one breeding away at any time. Literally every single day I wake up, there could be something crazy that gets announced
Oh, absolutely.
Every single day, every single day.
It's nuts. Like
so yeah, it's
you know, and when you see these
like I said,
combos, there's stuff that are completely like they're not obvious. You know, some of them aren't
No.
obvious. It's not like a
No.
clown pied or like something Ultramel pied. They're these genes that you wouldn't normally really. You're like, but who cares?
Yeah.
It'll just be like another stack of Podom.
Yep.
And they turn out amazing, man. Like it's incredible.
Yeah.
But that's awesome.
Blackhead Pistol Ultramel clown. Yeah, Mazma, I'm trying to get. I'm so pissed. I missed. I think Sal knows about this. I missed out on buying a blackhead, not black pastel, but a blackhead pastel het Ultramel female from Justin for a super low price. Like I broke my own rules and I texted Kabilka at like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, like asking him about this snake that he posted to Morph Market that day because somebody gave me the heads up about it, and he didn't get back to me, but he pulled the animal off Morph Market. So I was like, okay, cool. Like one of two things is happening. Like maybe he pulled it because he knows I'm gonna buy it. But also maybe he pulled it because somebody else already bought it, or like he decided to keep, like, who knows. And so he texts me back. For anybody that knows, like Kabil, obviously he's a big Christian. He's very active in his church, and so I always make a point not to bother him on Sundays. And like if it's close to a Sunday, I always tell him like, hey man, like don't get back to me till Monday, whatever. So he texted me on Monday morning and was like, hey man, I already. He's like, I sold that animal within 15 minutes of posting it. So I'm like, Jesus, dude.
15 minutes, man. Like
yeah, which is great. Like I said, every time I hear stuff like that, it's just that much more validation, man. Like at one point, and again, I'm real honest with everybody about everything. Like at one point, I was getting worried about the project because it was like he had some really crazy powerhouse females listed on Morph Market. Now granted, we're not talking about cheap females; they were like $4,000 females, but they weren't moving. But they weren't moving for what felt like an eternity, but they were posted for like a month. Well, those are all gone now, and so again, like I'm super freaking excited about the project. The idea that anybody's willing, that anybody that has the pocketbook, to drop $4,000 on a snake is in the project, and then that they're willing to invest that money in this project specifically is a huge kind of marker that I think you have to always kind of look for. With anything that you're working with, because if you've got the ability to make some stuff like that, which I do this year from that pairing, those would not be cheap animals, and I'm certainly not a Justin Kabilka, so I need to know that there's some people out there that would be willing to maybe roll the dice with that amount of money on me, and again I've got the lineage to kind of show where these animals came from, so I'm not real worried about that part anymore. But that's rolling into it. That's why I started on YouTube, man, and that's why I do the stuff that I do every day.
Absolutely, it's important, man, and like Morph Market is so like obviously like I'm sure a lot of us check Morph Market almost daily, but it's not only good when you're trying to find a certain snake. It's great. It's a great tool to use to your advantage. Like go
a lot of people don't think about it that
animals, see the pricing, like see how much the pricing has changed since they were for sale 2 years ago.
Yep.
There's so many things on that website that are great tools for the seller as well. Like even if you're not selling.
So I probably shouldn't talk about this, but I will anyways. I've mentioned this to a couple people before, and I'll talk about it because I don't think it's anything I'm personally capable of doing. And if somebody puts it together, I'll be interested in it. So I've always been interested in alternate investing and things like that. And so anybody that knows anything about Magic cards, I've never really been into the Magic card market, but it's interesting. There's a website called MTG Goldfish, and what's cool about that is it's you can buy and sell cards on there and things like that. But what's cool is because they have all this access to all this data of what gets sold and the listing prices and things, they've built charts to where you can actually chart specific cards, specific products, and what the pricing is, and what the historical pricing is, what things are selling for now versus what they were selling for a month ago.
Yeah.
I would love to see somebody have something like that for Morph Market, and I know that it can be done. There's a way. I'm not a genius, but I know a little bit about coding and things that can happen, and I've talked to some friends of mine that code, and it can be done where basically for anybody that works for Morph Market, maybe think about getting on this ahead of time. There's a way they can block it, but you can farm data from their website to check listings, so you can check date. You could farm data from their site to basically have a bot that goes in, farms the average listing price of anything that's listed as Het Ultramel, or however you break down the genes.
Yeah.
You could farm that data and give yourself an average price and have it tracked. There's people that do this with eBay listings for cards and stuff, where they have their own bots that work just for them, where only they get the data and only they get the information. And that's how a lot of like people invest in like baseball cards and Pokemon cards and stuff like that. It's neat.
Dude, that would be that.
There's a hack there. There's a hack there for sure, because again, this market I always equate to, and I try not. I say I try not. I love talking about the business side of this because it's interesting to me, because I feel like we talked about it online about like the saltwater fish market. Yeah. I always try to draw parallels between the ball python market and other markets, and just kind of, you know, that's where I get form a lot of just like my thought process, and just like try to kind of draw my vision for like where things might be going and things like that.
Absolutely.
And so yeah, I think that Masman Pokemon cards, it's absolutely insane. Baseball cards just broke the record again. A Mickey Mantle rookie card just broke the record. It's like $5 million at a recent auction.
Crap, dude.
There was a pre-production Blastoise Pokemon card that just went for like $360,000 at an auction house. Like it's wild. It's wild.
Oh,
Logan Paul's into Pokemon cards. It's nuts, dude. It's nuts. Katy Perry's is involved in like the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, which is it's crazy. And I'm not involved in those markets. I just track this stuff because it's interesting to me.
Oh yeah.
I just really get a kick out of like I said, alternate investing from a standpoint of like of just these like micro economies that nobody thinks about as like being economies, because like I said, a lot of people don't think about the economy side of ball pythons. Like, this is a market, and it's no different than the stock market.
No.
The only difference is that it's not regulated the way the stock market is, and so that's the other side that people don't talk about. Is like, okay, like banana. I'll use that as an example. Banana was a way that somebody was looking at the ball python market as an actual market, the same as the stock market, and they manipulated the market. They created a false scarcity, meaning they pretended like there was none available to jack the price way up. But they had all of them. They were just holding them all. Same thing happens every day with like baseball cards and Magic cards, Pokemon cards. What'll happen if you got somebody with the right amount of money? They can manipulate the market. So they can literally go on eBay. They can have a bot that buys every card of a card that they want to manipulate. They buy every single one below a certain amount of money. Buy them all, and they just buy them out, so to create a false scarcity. So there's no listings anymore, so people think they're not available. All of a sudden, people start wanting those cards. Well, they sit on them for a year. And again, this takes a lot of money to be able to do this, but it's doable. Create a false scarcity, and then they trickle them back out into the market, and they make their money tenfold. Okay. And then it crashes again because now everybody's got them and people start selling me. But it's just interesting the way that things can be manipulated. And ball python market's the same way. So like I said, the idea of having a chart that you could track and you can see what genes are doing well right now and what genes are not is an interesting thought.
It is.
And there might be people that already do that. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, that would be. I mean, if someone's on it, that's awesome. But like that, I think that's a great idea. Just to that would help out so many people, and just like in general. I mean, it would help and it would hurt. It would help and it would hurt. True, that's true. And
I think that's the argument against it, because and the other part of it too is that the issue that you could create is that people start taking that stuff as gospel, right? Of like, oh, this gene's worthless because of the data, but the data is not always going to be accurate, because there's a ton of sales that go on outside of Morph Market, and so it's not the end all be all marketplace.
Not at all.
There's stuff on there that gets sold for under the asking price, or gets taken down, and we don't know if it got sold or the animal died or whatever. So again, it's certainly not perfect, but for somebody like me, and I think a lot of other people, I think it would just be very interesting to have that extra data point, because I look at it all the time. When I got into Ultramel before I started spending big money, one of the first things I did was look at how many were listed, like how many are for sale. And dude, right now I think literally there's less than 100 visual Ultramels listed for sale.
Yeah,
less than 100 on Morph Market.
Yeah,
the market, the main marketplace. Less than 100 visuals listed for sale. And then when you filter that by females, it's way less. It's like 30.
Definitely.
It's like less than 30. So that stuff like that. So obviously, again, going back to the data, and I don't mean to just like get nerdy about like data and stuff. I get really excited about it. I love this stuff.
Go ahead.
Like it's twofold, right? Because one person might look at that and on up front be like, oh, there's opportunity here. I need to make these because there's none available. But there could be none available because nobody's fucking buying them. Like, you know, because I'll say the same thing about the desert gene. Like, you know, there's not many of those listed either. And the one, you know, so it's do your research and just I'll always remember, you know, that's just one data point. That's just one little piece of information. Post above Horizon. That's freaking awesome. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that at all. Aurora, for anybody that doesn't know, has some amazing boas, like crazy like locality and like just like boa. Like she knows more about boas than I could ever even like want to know about boas. Between her and a couple other people, man, it's like that are not talked about nearly enough. Like Aurora needs to be like putting herself out there a lot more to talk about her stuff.
I agree, and like you know,
she's got some amazing animals.
Before they're not exactly as easy as a ball python in terms of breeding, as we all know.
No, and so that's why I say, man, like especially for like that's why like when you told me your first freaking snakes that you bred by accident were boas, I'm like, dude, that's amazing, you know. Yep. Like obviously you accidentally got something right because they're not, you know, it's not just anybody that can breed these things. So that's freaking cool.
I was stoked, and as I read more about it, I was like, damn, man, these things aren't easy, and what we're doing isn't the right way, so to speak. And but it worked, and they were healthy, so that's what I cared about.
I talked about that when we brought it up before with Ricky Wheeler. You know, I just got lucky and ran into him and met him and was able to talk to him a little bit at the Arlington NARBC. For anybody that doesn't know who Ricky Wheeler is, are you familiar with Ricky Wheeler?
No, I'm not. Dude,
look up Ricky Wheeler on Instagram. Like as soon as you get done with this or now or something. Yep. So, and the reason I say this is because he was in like big in like the body mod side of things. Like he was like a piercer and like worked in tattoo shops and stuff. But now he does. I don't know everything he does. He breeds indigo snakes. That was the first snakes that he bred, which are also like a nightmare to breed. Yeah, and he's and so that was my main point. But also he does like skeletal rearticulations, dude. And I'm not talking like oh he does taxidermy or he does like the best freaking skeletal articulations I've ever seen in my life. Dude, this awesome. Dude like if you look up his Instagram right now and scroll through. It's just Ricky Wheeler, I think. Rickey.
Okay.
So he's got a baboon skeleton on there. And that Ricky Wheeler. That baboon skeleton, he rearticulated it, and the baboon skeleton is holding and looking at I believe it's either a peregrine falcon, it's either a falcon or a parrot skull, and he's holding it between his fingers like this. But it just like the way that he was able to like. He's beyond talented, man, and I'm sure a lot of that talent probably comes from him being a body modder and all that, because obviously all that's like super precise, detailed work.
That's awesome.
His work it's mind blowing. And like I said, I got
Wheeler like WHE.
Yeah, all right. Matter of fact, I'll send it to you in a message.
Yeah, just send it to me. That'd be cool. Yeah, because that's awesome. And I mean, he was in the same profession as I was, so that's kind of.
And that's why it clicked in my head. I was like, wait, Sal definitely needs to know about Ricky Wheeler. Share this profile with Sal. Awesome. But yeah, he's just a super talented guy. But it was super funny because I was talking to him at his table about the indigo babies that he had, because I had a friend of mine at the show was interested in getting one from him, which she ended up getting, which was awesome. But we ended up talking while he and I were I was grabbing a beer. I don't know what he was doing in the hallway. I just kind of cornered him, I guess, while I was buying beer. But we started talking about the way he keeps his indigos and like how he breeds them. And he was just like real nonchalant about it. He's just like, I don't know, man. He's like, people talk like, and he wasn't bragging. He was just like, he's like, I didn't know they were hard to breed until somebody told me that they were. Like, he just has them, and like, He did tell me like a little bit of the details, but he kept it just super simple. So same thing. He's like, the way that I was doing stuff was like not the way that a lot of people told me to keep my animals initially. Like he's like, I just started thinking more about how they do things in the wild, and he's like, I just kind of recreated that, you know, and just like, you know, he just had like a lot of this little information that was funny because he's like, oh, well, I don't do anything special, and then he's like, through conversation, like, well, I do this and I do, but again, it wasn't anything like overly detailed. You know, it really at the end of the day was just like, I just replicate what happens to them in the wild, and they do things and give me babies. I don't know, you know. So yeah, I get a kick out of stuff like that.
I love when you start talking about stuff like that and just hearing other people's side of the story on how they're doing it, because you hear all the mainstream stuff, but then there's all these other paths, right? And you hear this path and it sounds crazy, but it's not. Like it's more naturalistic than what we're trying, you know.
And a lot of times that's the stuff too that you know, because the information that people post, it's the bold points, right? It's the broad strokes, and a lot of times the little things that people do are things they don't think about. I noticed that a lot with Garrett. Like a lot of from Reach Out Reptiles, a lot of what he does that he doesn't talk about. It's not that he intentionally leaves out those details. It's those little details he doesn't think about. It's just the way that he does things. You know, it's just the way that he does them, and so he doesn't consider that to be like an important like point of how he gets his success. But it is all those little things that add up to being a really tremendous difference in the way that one person does things versus another, and can be all the difference in the world between their success and their failure. And on top of that, just because that's how one person does it doesn't mean it's going to make you successful, because like we talk about all the time, environmental issues are things that we can't control. Like the way I keep my snakes down here is probably night and day different from the way you do, because you're different temperatures, different barometric pressures, different humidities. My snakes might go a totally different time of year from yours. So it's just, you know, there's a lot of little details, man. But that's what keeps things fun.
It is, man.
Is all of us just perfecting our own processes.
Yeah, seriously. And it comes down to the most like simple, like even just, you know, I had a good conversation with Justin from Pipeline Pythons, who's on here right now, about incubation boxes today, and just like, it's just crazy how many different little things you can tweak on an incubation box within itself. Yeah. Just the box itself, not even including the incubator. Like there's just 100 different things that you can just tweak, and everyone has these different tubs. And then I'm watching videos online. I'm like, well, this guy's tub, he doesn't have any press and seal, but this one does. But they're using the same tub. And this guy's using sponges. This guy's using vermiculite, like perlite. Like there's all the. It's nuts, man. There's all these different ways of doing stuff, and you know, I guess when you find a way that works for you, just stick with it, because it's, you know, like whatever works for you, man, just keep doing it. You know, and
half of it's a little bit of just like black magic and wizardry, you know, like at the end of the day, like we all kind of have our thoughts on like oh, like I found out that, you know, or like I thought, like my thought is that like, and this isn't me, but this was like somebody that I was talking to about it. They're like, I found that by having the perlite too dry, it was sucking the humidity out of the air to store within itself, and so my egg box humidity was lower than what it would have been outside of the egg box. So even though my humidity was measuring 100% outside of the egg box, it was actually too low inside, so my eggs were drying out. You know, it's like, you know, like just like it's like a 10-minute explanation to get to the final point of the explanation as to why your eggs are dry. You know, it's just but that's the hobby, man. That's the fun of it, because this person had recreated, they thought in their head, exactly what somebody else had done. And so and this will come full circle to the point I was making before about the little details that people don't think are important. He was using that dry perlite, and it probably was. I think it was true that the perlite actually was sucking the humidity out of the atmosphere within his egg box, because his egg boxes were super sealed, so there wasn't a lot of air exchange with the outside. So he was using a cooler incubator like I have.
Yeah.
So the humidity in there is obviously 100%, because there's literally water at the bottom being heated, and it's literally 100% humidity all the time. It is as humid as it can get. But inside the egg box, it won't be if there's no air exchange with the outside. So you do need some holes. So that's why we don't use like the press and seal with this, because we're not trying to keep the humidity in the egg box. The humidity comes from outside of the egg box, so we need air exchange.
Right.
So what this guy was talking about was so he ended up wetting his perlite a little bit, because the whole idea of this incubation style is that you shouldn't have to wet the incubation media. You shouldn't have to wet the perlite. Right. In theory, you could put them the eggs in there in the plastic freaking tub and they'd probably hatch.
Yeah, exactly.
Aside from the fact that they'd be sitting in water, so you want them suspended. But you could probably get away with putting like light diffuser in the egg box with nothing else, and they'd probably hatch that way. But so one little detail that I did different that he didn't was I rinsed my perlite. So my perlite wasn't wet like some people do it, like half and half or whatever, but it had some moisture in it, and it wasn't therefore sucking any air, so I didn't have that problem myself. Right. You know, but again, that little detail, like I might, like if I was telling somebody how to set this up, I might have forgot to tell them, oh yeah, rinse your perlite off, because that little detail to me wouldn't have mattered.
No.
It's like either do or don't. Like I just did it because I didn't want my perlite all dusty while I was working with it. Like but that little detail would have separated success from failure. Yep. So that's why I say I love that shit, man.
I know,
I really do.
And it works in that, and that's just, isn't that how life goes in general? Like there's just these like little details, and that's why learning, you know, and obviously I wouldn't ever want anyone to learn in a bad way by losing eggs or anything like that. But as we progress and as we like fuck up, like we've learned from those mistakes. Yes. It's like, oh man, that one thing. Next year, there's zero chance that's happening.
Yep. Like, you know? And that's why I that's my favorite thing about YouTube to learn, is that you'll notice a lot of times in videos, like DIY videos or like videos where people are showing people how to do things. Like I made one DIY video and it was like 35 fucking minutes long because I explained every little detail of what I'm doing. But every little detail is important, like, because I don't expect everyone to be like me. So the way that I watch videos when people are explaining how they're doing stuff, I'll watch what they're actually doing and not even necessarily what they're explaining, because a lot of those little details, those little actions get left out that are not important to them, but they're important to me because I'm like, that's part of your process. Like you don't know, but like that's part of why that works. Like that's an important step in what you did. Like I need to know exactly what box you used for that incubator build because it's gonna matter. Like the cooler incubator, nobody talks about it. You can't just go and grab any igloo cooler. They don't work. Like they don't fit. They don't make them the way they used to. So this freaking cooler that I have only fits 3 of the incubation boxes that Garrett uses because it's a different fucking cooler, and it pisses me off. But I didn't know that until I found out the hard way by buying it and building it, and now I got a tiny freaking incubator. But you know, it works for me. It's fine.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, like so I have people that reach out and ask me about this all the time, and I'm like, yeah, you have to buy a cooler off Craigslist and look for one that looks like this. And I'll send them a picture. They're like, well, what model is it? I'm like, this one, visual. Like, look at you're gonna need to hit up the dude on Facebook Marketplace that's selling it and ask him to take a picture of the inside of it, because that's like, you need one that's got this lip around it's. But it's just those little things, man.
It's that just specific, and that's exactly.
But that's what I love about YouTube, because you can watch somebody actually go through their process of what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to expecting them to remember every little detail. And that's where like the forums and stuff, like I love forums. I wish forums were still a thing.
Oh, me too.
Man. I love them so much more than Facebook posts, because it's impossible to track things. Forums were for somebody that's as organized and OCD as me. Like I need that organization of like things in order of dates and like a way to search and a way to to go through. And find that stuff, man. I think people really underestimate now how important that was, and I don't know why that they're not still a thing, because forums still exist.
I know.
I don't know if they just got expensive to maintain. I know that there was issues with like there was like almost nobody hosted photos. Nobody hosts photos anymore. Like Photo Bucket like wasn't a thing there for a while. Yeah. And so most of the old forum, like I'm big into cars. A lot of the old forum posts, I used to be huge on some of the old like 240SX forums and stuff.
Oh, nice.
And a lot of those posts don't exist anymore because all of the pictures that were being hosted for free by Photobucket are gone.
Dude,
which is, I get it. I get it. But yeah, it is.
And you're like, check out this snake, and then it's just like, sorry, this photo's unavailable.
Yes, a lot of people don't know that, especially younger people that are getting in the hobby. For those that are wondering why that stuff happened, at one point, Photobucket basically killed us all, beat us all over the head. They were like, either pay me or we're gonna basically they broke the internet. Like
Yeah.
they broke, like in one night, overnight, they destroyed every forum
Just like, never
on
mind.
the internet.
Yeah.
Literally, there were no photos available. It was just photo bucket link broken and just nothing.
It's so annoying, dude. I hate it.
Yeah.
And I still like, I'll go on the old forum just to read stuff, but it's even funny just reading some of the info that was given back in the day, especially like
it really is.
I was like, damn, man, people are harsh. Like,
yes,
holy, it's funny, man. I love going and reading that shit. So, I just had to put that up there.
Yeah, I saw
I'm
it.
read it already, but yeah, no, it's I agree. I miss the forums, and I like on World of Ball Pythons even Morph Market. I noticed they were like I don't know if they really have it going. Like I'll go and check out that like kind of forum section. But it's not.
I've glanced at it. I've never dug through it too deep.
Yeah, me neither. And that's the thing is it's not quite the same. Like it's not the same kind of feel. I guess I don't know. It's just a little bit different. Maybe it's a setup in general, but yeah. Hopefully, it'd be awesome if they could bring that forum aspect back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, I don't know. I don't know if it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think the landscape of just the way people do things has changed a lot, because back then, like, you didn't do as much of that stuff on your phone. True. Because like it was, I don't know, like the way the functionality was not quite as good, and I think now, unless that functionality's gotten a lot better, most people, like, outside of Reddit, like Reddit does it pretty well, but Reddit's kind of tough to navigate. Like, I don't know, Reddit's a little weird. I think you could probably do Reddit pretty well, but again, I think it's a lot of just like driving traffic to that place, right? Like, even though there's a ton of us that traffic through Morph Market, a lot of us don't traffic like to that side of it. So maybe if they promoted it, it might be okay. But I think that's why Facebook and Instagram are the main spots, because people are already on there in their day-to-day lives. They already are spending so many fucking hours of their time on those platforms. So it's easy for those things to be successful in terms of just that information exchange, which I do and don't like, just because it's people suck on Facebook in general. But, not that people were much better on the forums. I mean, God, I remember.
Some people are so brutal on there, man. But it was. I feel like it was more so like it wasn't. I guess it's kind of different. Facebook, I just feel like there's a lot of whiners, whereas like I feel like the forums were more people like really digging into each other. Yeah, man, because they were very cliquey. Because like there was always like 10 guys on every forum that really knew each other. And like a couple of them probably hated each other, but they were super active in that forum, and they like really took ownership of that site as like something that they belonged to and they really owned. And like anybody that came in with like a newbie question, why don't you use the search button, dickhead? Like, freaking search, man. I'm so tired. Every week I come in here, every day there's some new kid coming in here asking this same fucking question. Why don't you just search, man? There's 30 threads just on the main page about this. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was like 17, I was that guy at one point, on the 240SX forum, like to an extent. I mean, it had to be something like really dumb that somebody was asking for me to like really light somebody up. And I think also that was a point in time on the internet, like you didn't think about the fact that like you're really shitting on somebody, and they don't realize that you might be like kind of doing it a little bit in jest. Like, a lot of times, like, and you don't realize like how much you were really hurting your community by being an asshole, like, especially the new people coming in. And so like it hurts my heart to say that I was ever even a little bit that way, and that might surprise some people that know how, I try to be as nice and welcoming to everybody now as I can. Yeah, maybe I'm trying to make up for lost time and past mistakes, but I feel like I was similar, unfortunately, and I do think I kind of changed because I used to think shit like that was funny back in the day, but then.
Well, that's right. Like I said, your perspective changes. You realize that, like, oh shit, man, like, fuck.
I could be making someone have like and then I start thinking, because you're an adult when you're working all the time, and you're like, man, if you're just having a shitty day and you're just asking a simple question, you get shit on like that, like it sucks, dude. Yeah, it's tough. But
it happens.
No, that's awesome. I do miss the forum, so that's hilarious.
So, I miss it for both reasons. It's all good.
Yeah, so I was gonna go after I kind of got off track, which is totally awesome. But
it's all good.
Yeah. What? So besides Ultramel, is there any other like genes or combos that you kind of want to either work into Ultramel or just separately work with?
Yeah, so I really want to get into like the gravel stuff, either gravel or asphalt. I haven't really thought about that, and then also lace. I all with all three of those, I want to work them. I want to work them as the same way I would work a recessive. So work them towards supers, and then mix those supers into everything. So in other words, like with lace, Marshall is doing that. He and I've had that discussion, and I love the way that he's working with lace. To where basically like you treat everything as a het or a pos het, like because especially with lace, it's so fucking hard to identify. Sometimes, not always, but especially in certain combos. So unless you started out with a super, it's hard to really say 100% that everything in there is lace, etc. I would like to work lace at some point. Again, it's hard for me to really say because by the time I've got the financial means to start really feeling comfortable jumping into some of these other projects and things, these answers might be totally different. But yeah, for right now, fair, I would say like the super lace stuff I would like to see worked. And then I just think gravel needs to be worked as a super or just within its own thing. Like I have a decent amount of yellow belly in my collection, but if and when, because I will at some point bring some gravel in, I will not mix the two. I have no interest in making freeways or highways.
Nice. So you want to kind of take it into a different direction then?
Well, yeah, the whole purpose just being, again, for me from an investment standpoint, I'm not going to buy something personally. I'm not, anyways. It might be yellow belly, it might be gravel, or it might be asphalt, or it might, I always want to be able to tell people exactly what they're buying as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, of course.
My exception for that is the Krypton stuff, man. I love the Krypton project.
Same. More and more, man, as I learn. And
I am into that now. So I'm going next weekend. Yeah, I'm going next weekend for anybody that I haven't already told. I was so excited. I was like, fuck it. I'm not keeping this a secret. I'm just gonna tell everybody, So I picked up, and it wasn't part of the plan. This female happened to be available, and like, the numbers made sense, and like the more I thought about the Krypton stuff, because I think a lot of people just haven't really wrapped their head around how it's going to work and how they're going to work it in their projects, and like how to bring value to that, or like how it is valuable. So I think the prices on those is now still super low. I think it's like one of the best allelic combos out there in the sense that it works with fucking clown, which is like anything that works with clown adds value immediately to a project in my mind. And then on top of that, anything you breed to it, especially if you're working with clown, like if you've got a crazy powerful clown, a visual clown male, and you've got some Krypton stuff, you can't miss, because now instead of having to like, okay, you breed it to a het clown female, okay, well like you 50% you're gonna get visual clowns, and then everything else is 100% het, which is cool.
Yeah.
But now at least those 100% hets are like visually interesting as well. So you've layered. There's another layer to it.
Yep.
There's another just another striking visual combination that you've added in, and it didn't cost you a lot. You didn't really lose anything other than the fact that obviously the Kryptons can only pass on one or the other. They're not going to pass on both. Yeah. But again, I'm comfortable with that from a standpoint of, if you think about the fact that you're probably only ever going to breed clowns to it, I don't care. All it's doing is adding another visual aspect, like to an animal that otherwise would just look like a normal.
Yeah.
So how is it not more valuable? Like
I don't.
Like so I spent all day thinking about it, like basically from the time I saw the animal, though, having already seen Justin and Billy's explanations for how Krypton works, I'm like, I want that. I already know that I want that, because I've got again, I'm like throwing all my new stuff out there, but I have a visual pastel clown male, 100% het for Ultramel, coming from Marshall Mendez. We're just waiting on the weather to be right to get it shipped, or I may talk him into letting me come down and see his facility and pick it up in person. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Dude, that would be awesome.
So like I was running the numbers, doing the calculations on the genetic calculator, just to confirm to myself that I was thinking about it correctly in my head.
Yeah.
So when I breed that male to this female that I've got coming, so this female is a Mojave leopard, Krypton. So she's 100% het cryptic, 100% het clown, and she's 100% het Ultramel. So she's a triple het Mojave leopard. So when I breed her to this pastel clown het Ultramel, all I will hit, like the base, at base form, don't try to think about the pastel and leopard and all that shit.
Yeah.
Let's just think about at its base. So the clown going to the Krypton, every single animal will either be a visual clown or a visual Krypton.
Yep.
Both of those are cool as shit.
Yep.
So with nothing else in the mix,
yes.
Yeah, with nothing else in the mix, so now, like I said, you don't have to worry about, who's going to want to buy a 100% het clown male normal?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't matter because you're not going to make any. You're gonna every animal that you produce is going to be a visual in some way or another. So where's the downside? So and then add into that, the only downside for me is that anything that's not a visual Ultramel will only be a 66% het. But again, it's still going to be either a visual clown or a visual Krypton. So I just don't care. So again, the math for me, it was a no brainer.
Yeah, no kidding, man. And honestly, like, I get where people are coming from with 66% hets, and especially if we're not a well-known breeder, I understand that fact. But I want to touch base on the fact that, like, in my personal opinion, if you're getting a visual recessive snake and it happens to be 66%, I don't know why the hell you wouldn't take that chance, basically.
Yep.
I mean, you're already getting the visual. Buying the double visual is going to cost much more than what we're thinking on a 66% het. And then just for yourself too, I mean, if you get a bunch of females, if you get 3 females and they're all 66% het,
just keep them.
Man, nothing wrong with that. Like, you'll be laughing.
I'll just keep them till I prove them out. Doesn't bother me a bit.
Exactly, man. Like, there's nothing.
And I'll sell on whatever I don't, because they'll still be 100% het for clown.
Exactly, man.
So who fucking cares? Exactly. So that's why I say it. As long as it fits your breeding plans, and as long as you're thinking through that side of it, and you're putting the right animals to the right animals, because like the only downside is, like, again, if you were to breed, like, I don't know, like a het clown male, to a Krypton, like that, then things get a little weird. But then the upside is that which animals are het for clown. Like, you're going to know some of them, but then the other ones you're not going to know. It gets muddy really fast in that sense.
Yes.
Because then it's like, oh, well, this might be het for cryptic, but it also might be het for clown. That's where I say, again, just plan around that. Like, I think as long as people are doing the right pairings, I think it's a no-brainer. I just don't see the downside as long as you're working with it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I'm super excited about it, especially having seen that video that Justin put out with those freaking, like, red stripe, yellow belly, Mojave Kryptons and clowns, and and I loved the way he was talking in that video. He was just like, oh yeah, this is just an Ultra Krypton, and this is just an Ultra Clown, and then he just, like, sets it aside. I'm just like, I'm gonna slap this. I'm gonna slap you, Justin. Like, I'm physically going to hurt you when I see you next.
It's crazy to think like that. Like, when being that crazy far ahead, where you're like, yeah, well, this is just this. So let's move on to the good stuff. And I'm like, the just this is like an entree, man. Like, I don't know.
The just this is like a $3,000 animal that I would give a finger for. Yeah, like
it's unreal, man. And I love watching that stuff, because it gives you it gives you a good idea, and it gives you motivation. Sure. And like, I one of the guys that got me into is Garrick DeMeyer. And
Garric works with Ultramel too, which is awesome.
Yes, he does. He made actually, he lucked out this year, and he made I think it was like 3 Ultramel pies from it was like a double het to double het pairing. I think
somebody sent me the video. Yeah, it's been like a minute ago. Yeah,
those things were amazing, and like he had cryptic in his collection early on, and he was calling it Aztec for the longest time because he didn't know what it was.
Sure.
But he's been making some crazy stuff too with the cryptic and Krypton stuff, and I think he was kind of confused about it initially, as everyone else was. I'm sure JKR initially was like, "What the hell is going on?" But it's pretty interesting. It's been a while since we've had a allelic recessive. I think like the Tofino stuff or Toffee stuff was like the last. And
again, like, those are they're not like super overly impressive, I think. So it's just like, this is a totally different fucking thing. Anybody that's not excited about it, I just think they haven't thought it through, because like I said, anytime anytime that I'm 100% guaranteed to make visual things, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you're talking about recessive pairings with a guaranteed outcome. When do we ever have that? And it's tied to clown? Come on.
I know. Like, would you have ever thought, like, it's just so crazy to me, because, like, since the Tofino, and I don't know if there really is another allelic recessive. Like,
Candino.
Okay.
Yeah.
But are they different? Are Candino and Tofino?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy. It's not Ultramel.
I'm pretty
sure that I don't know. Is toffee the same as candy? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm sure.
I don't think
that
they
would
are.
be an argument, right?
Yeah, there you go. Aurora said it's the same thing. I trust her way more than you, Sal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. And again, that goes to show I have no idea. I don't know anything about anything.
It was an honest question because I don't know, but they.
Yeah, I know. I don't either. Like I said, yeah. But yeah, so I think it's exciting. I got a buddy of mine, Paco Miranda. He just posted a video. For anybody that hasn't seen it, and was there for my live stream with him, you have to go and watch the video that he just put out. He shows every snake in his rack. It's fucking ridiculous. The stuff he's got is nuts. I kept saying it, and he would not show it all off, but he made a full video showing everything in his rack. He's like, yeah, this is like a. This is a lavender albino Hetfer pied, and I don't know what I'm gonna put to her because I've also got this other lavender albino. Like, he's got so much freaking fire, dude, so much fire. But he in that video he was saying that he had a what was it? It was a it was a Krypton Het Desert Ghost, female. Dude. That he was like, yeah, she was sold to me as a cryptic, so I don't really know what I'm gonna do with her. He's like, I think I might. He's got, for the record, he has a male visual male Desert Ghost clown. He's like, I think I might put him to her, but I don't know what I haven't really decided. I left like the longest comment. I was like, dude. Let me do the math for you really quick. I was like, if you put that visual Desert Ghost male to a Krypton Het Desert Ghost, I was like, everything you make is going to be visual clown or visual Krypton, and it's all going to be 100% Desert Ghost. I was like, males, females, doesn't matter. It's all going to fucking sell. Period. End of story. Easy. I was like, you cannot fucking miss.
Easy. And then you can hit Desert Ghost on top of that, man.
Yes.
On top of it, like
that's what I'm getting at. Not even getting into the visual Desert Ghost stuff. Everything's gonna sell. So once I broke it, and that's why I say same thing. I just think a lot of people just haven't done the math in their head, or looked at the genetic calculator to be like, oh yeah, that I can't miss. Why haven't I already paired them up? Like, look, what's up, Chris? Thanks for being here, brother. Matter of fact, let me check on these this pairing. See what's going on. She's up at the front of the tub, so she may not want anything to do with them, which would be a good sign, I guess. Their tails are right next to each other.
Oh, it's getting
take long. Like I said, man, I'm telling you that male is. I text every time I talk to Justin, I tell him thank you because that male is he does not freaking miss, dude.
That's why he probably had him for so long. He's probably.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Breeder for him, man.
Yeah, and that's why I say what.
He does have really good weight still, man. Like when you were showing him earlier.
Yeah, that's why I say, like, it wasn't that I was like paranoid because he looks thin. It was just in my head. I realistically, I also I kept meaning to look at my reptile scan to see when the actual date he ate last was, and I thought it had been longer than that. So I feel pretty comfortable. I think at this point, like, if anything, I would just be worried that maybe his sperm count's dropped a little bit, but he hasn't been paired to anything in a little while, so he's probably fine.
Oh yeah. I think it's definitely worth it.
He's just a jerk about eating. Yeah, for sure. I mean, to make sure that she goes, especially because, like I said, I'm just paranoid about her reabsorbing like that other girl I had, man. Because that fire yellow belly Mojave Ultramels, come on. Spot nose, fire yellow belly Mojave spot nose Ultramels. I need that. Dude,
that's just crazy. That's just like why. It sucks, but I don't know for sure yet, but I think one of my pied females reabsorbed. I don't know for sure yet, but
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, like if that freaking girl goes, like some of the money from those babies might just buy me an ultrasound, just so that I don't have to have this stress anymore, you know, because dude, I keep hearing from my friends that have them, and they're like, oh yeah, 3 locks and the male got the job done, and I'm like, dude, because that fucking male, I promise you, has locked with that female 7 fucking times.
Yeah.
And that's so much work for him, you know, and so much wasted, like, sperm count and everything else. Like, I could be, and thankfully, like, again, like, I'm not pairing him to a ton of females, so it's not really hurting me or him this year.
Right.
But in the long run, it's like, dude, that's so inefficient. You know, I could be so much more calculated about stuff. So, yeah. And Chris, you can definitely attest to this. Chris he's got an ultrasound, and man, Chris is one of those, like, he's so under the radar, man. He's a fun guy to know, and a fun guy to watch and be friends with, because he's got just such great stuff going on over there, and with so many different species too. Like he's just a good dude. Like I said, I get a kick out of kind of getting to live vicariously through him in a lot of projects, and you know, he's with me in the Ultra Clown project, and
That's awesome.
has a bunch of other stuff going on, man. So he's one of the.
I kind of like
for
that.
Sure.
I like you know, people who are kind of a little bit under the radar, but they're gonna kill it, like, you know, and
yeah, well, and like he's been breeding for a while, and like you know, has no problem selling all his babies off. Like he's got a killer website, and it's just nice to see somebody that like doesn't have to do the YouTube thing like you know, like me, and you know, like, not that he does have a YouTube channel, and he does put out a little bit of content, but it's not one of those things where he feels the need to like really overly advertise himself to make sure that his babies sell. Like his stuff just moves on its own, you know, which is awesome.
No,
which is awesome. Yeah,
and he just the comment I posted up there. I have actually, I think, like five or 6 females that were savages before, and within this last month, actually, all of them have stopped now.
Yeah,
looking really nice and thick. So
that girl, this was the first time since she's been breeding, and she's got huge fucking follicles. I felt them.
Yeah.
This is the first time she finally stopped eating, because that was the thing that kept throwing me off, man, is that she's been building for what feels like forever. I mean, she, like, I have, like, Chris is one of the people that can tell you, I have asked him and Marshall and Shane and a couple others, I talked about it before, I like, she's been inverted on her belly literally probably 3 months ago, building. And then again, like 2 weeks ago, was completely inverted on her. I'm like, what is happening? Like, are you gonna give me? Yeah, I'm like, yeah, and she's still pounding medium rats like every 2 fucking days up at the tub, like ready to bite my fucking hand off when I open the tub, like just crushing food. But yeah, this week was the first time she finally refused a meal. So like I said, I'm pretty hopeful, but we'll see. I can't tell. I can see her cruising around the front of she's wagging her tail. They're gonna lock up for sure.
Well, see, that's the thing too. Is like when you have females like that, where they're a couple of the ones I'm talking about, they're the same thing. Like they are waiting for that food, and then you go to feed them that one time, and they show zero interest.
Yeah, she kind of looked at it. She kind of looked at it like she was. But I think it was a lot of it is she knows that she's building, like how big she is, I think now. I think that her follicles are at the point that she knows. I even tried offering her like a weaned rat, just a really small meal. Yeah. She didn't want it. So I'm like, okay, like that's, you know, finally, it's about fucking time. Like, cause dude, she was like 1,400 or 1,300 grams when I first paired her. And I was like, I'll just kind of see what happens. Dude. I haven't weighed her. She's got to be 2,000 grams. Like, she's fucking massive now.
That's awesome.
And that's just because she's been just absolutely just hammering food from the time she locked for the first time. It was like I flipped a switch. So yeah, it's been good.
That sounds really promising, especially that she, you know, if she's one of the ones that's ready at the edge of her tub and she's not going for it. You know, they obviously, like, mine will look at it, but comparatively, it's definitely a light switch is turned off. Like it's night and day. So I don't know, every time that happens where you have like, and you know, I kind of paired them all around the same time. They were all savages, and then all of a sudden it's like one after another. And I've checked for things like temperature and humidity changes. I check my probes, I check the temperature in the room, like I'm checking all that, and you know, my males are still eating fine, breeding
Yeah.
fine, and all that. So it's
Yeah,
not.
that's
I don't
good, and
think
that's the aspect I never thought about too much. Going into it, was like keeping my males eating. I just never thought about it too much.
Yeah.
I don't think it's talked about a lot. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna make a more of a point in the future. Like I know, like Antoine, he was saying how like right after his males lock up and get like finished, like he's like, dude, he's like, I'll give them like my males like one really small meal, like even like a weaned rat or something,
Yeah.
like right afterwards, just to make sure he's like, that their food response stays up. So feeding smaller meals. So and I think Jeremy said the same thing. Like Jeremy doesn't feed any of his animals anything bigger than a small rat.
Yeah, which is very interesting.
And so yeah, I think I'm going to start leaning more that direction and just really really keeping, hopefully that'll really keep all my stuff eating, more consistently.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. I'm going to try some different stuff, and especially like raising these babies up, like that's been really interesting. Like I've had people like reach out to me, ask me about those babies. Matter of fact, I'll just pull some out while we're talking about them. So I just had a panic moment. I was like, why is this tub open? I forgot to put that male. I put the male in with the female, and I was like, why is this tub open? Where did he go? So let's see. I'll grab one of the other girls that was actually eating. So I've had people ask me like, what in the hell I was feeding my babies, because they're freaking huge. So like this. One was one of the ones that was a little bit slower to eat, but this one ate right out of the egg.
Yeah, look at that! Wow.
Don't bite your brother or sister. I don't know, one or the other. But yeah, like
So
they look great. They're literally still eating rat pinkies. But the difference is, I was gonna say the difference is I feed them every 3 to 4 days.
That's awesome, man. No, I think that's great.
And this is my little hold back.
I mean, look at the size, right? I mean,
yeah.
And nice and healthy. It's not like overweight or anything. It's perfectly.
No.
It's how it should look, basically.
I love that little chain pattern.
Oh my god! Is that the trick Mojave?
Yeah, Mojave trick head Ultramel.
Damn. Yeah, there's no guessing on that one, man.
No, and then this is a little normal head Ultramel, but it is a female.
Nice.
So
it was
this one's probably gonna still be for sale.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's
actually, this might. I don't know. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure this is the normal. I don't think that's a trick. I saw the belly and I was like, wait a minute.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Maybe this won't be for sale.
Right.
It was a female heavy clutch too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 1.5. I'm gonna like triple check, obviously.
Yeah.
But like I've gone back. I went back through the other day and I couldn't find the male because I'm like, man, I had shifted their tubs around to be in the order of like who was eating and who wasn't, so that I could make sure I kind of knew which baby it was I needed to be, keeping a the Bazinga ball. I had shifted the one that wasn't eating to be like at the end of the row, so that I really like just absolutely couldn't forget which one I needed to focus on. Yeah. So I don't remember where the male ended up in the order, but I will, for anybody that's interested in buying those babies, I will obviously like triple check before anybody buys anything, that I know for sure what the sexes are, because I know that normal was a female, and I've got one male trick het Ultramel. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep that or not, because the thought of making some super trick Ultramels later definitely sounds nice. Yeah. So I'm like, and the other part is I don't know what to price those things at, man. That's why I haven't moved any of them yet. Like Mindy is going to end up with one of them. But I honestly, like, there's no trick het Ultramels available. There's none.
Oh, man, that's a tough position to be in, because like it's almost like you're creating, almost as if you're creating the cost for it. Because like if you can't find a reference point, it's kind of hard to. I mean, I guess you can kind of base it off how much. I don't know if you can find it. Trick. That's
why I can't. No, there's no trick head Ultramels available anywhere. There's none that have been sold within there's none sold listed on Morph Market. And again, like it's the thing. So the thing is it's not like I'm not going to price them as like, oh, these are world's first. Like they've been made before, and there's other people that have like a female trick in the rack. They could make some, within the next year. Right. So it's not like I want to price them like way high or anything. No, I just don't want to like give them away or like really like undercut myself. Chris, if you're talking about a female double het ultra clown, then we could definitely talk about that 100%. Because in all seriousness, Chris, if that's what you're talking about, I'll do that deal all day.
That's
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That was a killer clutch. I enjoyed the video you had on it, and, just kind of trying to figure out what everyone was, and there you go, man.
Yeah, Chris, we'll make that happen.
Awesome.
For sure. Like I said, I'll dig the mail out and find out which animal it is. But yeah, I'll talk to you more about the details on that.
Awesome.
And we'll figure it out. That's the other side. I still have to get like shipping supplies because I'm gonna have to ship these. I need to like order boxes, and it's a really exciting place for me to be. Like
Absolutely.
it really, really is. I'm so I don't even have words, which is weird for me. I know.
Dude,
it's really, really exciting to finally be in the position. Like I told my buddy, my best friend Adam, I told him after I bought that, because he's been talking. He's like, dude, you need to buy some crypto and this and that. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything about fucking cryptocurrency. And he's like, yeah, but me either. But I already made some money. I'm like, okay, but I'm not gonna spend my money that way. I was like, but while we're talking about investments, I was like, I did just buy another snake. And he's like, dude, what the fuck? He's like, you need to start selling some of those things before you just keep buying more. I was like, well, actually, I was like, I'm gonna finally be able to sell some. So you're good, Mindy. I knew what you meant. So it's just nice to finally be in that position where I'm like, oh, I'm actually gonna like get some money back from these things that I can like turn into like another cage for this female, because she already needs a bigger cage because she's just getting big fast. Or like maybe I can buy an ARS rack. Like I would love to finally buy an ARS rack.
Dude, me too.
Just because I feel like that's like really an important next step. Whether it's my breeding of dwarfs and super dwarfs, or with my ball python stuff. Because I was looking at buying another PVC cage, and I'm like, man, like, I'm buying like 6 slots at a time, of PVC for like $300 a piece. Yep. I'm like, by the time I do this, like I could have just bought a freaking ARS and had something that was really, really nice and been done with it.
Yep.
I would love to be able to spend the money on Freedom Breeder. I just can't do it. It's like double the fucking price to get them out here, and I just can't.
It's crazy, man. Like I agree. That would be amazing. But even if I could just get into ARS at this point, I'll be happy. To be honest,
Yeah, and I think the reality is like, if at some point later on I'm living somewhere closer, or when shows come back, if I can buy a Freedom Breeder from a show, and not have to worry about the shipping costs, or finagle something like that, then great. But I think the other side of that is that the ARS, again, I just look at everything from like, okay, what's it cost me today, and then like what's my sunken cost, like what can I get back out of it.
Yep.
And I think you can always sell an ARS. I don't think anybody's ever going to it's never going to hit zero, in other words.
No.
Even PVC cages, the same thing, so it's not like I'm like upset about having bought the PVC stuff that I have. It's nice quality stuff, aside from the TGR rack that I have, which is a piece of shit, but throwing that out there. Don't buy a TGR rack, especially not a used one. If it's used, it's because somebody's selling it for a reason. Mine will probably just stay here, and I'll just hate it until I can't stand it anymore, and I'll just throw it in the trash.
Dude, I don't mind my PVC racks, but I will say I fucking cannot stand that sound when they get a little bit older and that tub squeaks on the way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It drives me nuts, man. And then I go to like, especially if I'm I don't check on locks a lot, but when I go to check on a lock and it like scares the shit out of the snake, I actually start getting angry. I'm like, okay, you just caused the fucking male to slip out now.
Well, that's how my TGR is, because what happens is they made them just a little bit too wide for the FB70 tubs, and so the tub will fall. So you'll be pulling it out and it go thunk, and it scares the fuck out of the snake, which then causes the snake to want to bite me, which pisses me off even more. I'm already mad that the fucking rack I paid money for is a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Now it's it's causing me to like, it's just bad. It's bad all the way down.
You can do whatever you want to me, but once you start fucking with the snakes, man, I'm getting pissed.
Yeah.
Chris,
what can you do?
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to kind of chat about quick, like I won't keep you on.
Sure, and dude, we can keep fucking going. I'm not in any rush to get out of here, so you're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wanted to see if you, like, when kind of everything with COVID kind of settles down, we'll say even for next year, let's say, because it's kind of bypassed this year even. It's a little But are you planning on vending at any shows ever? Like if you get to that point, anyways.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna depend, you know. I think right now, like in my head at least, like the way that I would like to have my business kind of operate is like, and it's gonna be a while before I'm at that point, you know.
Yeah, no worries.
But the way that I would like for things to work now is that like I would like it to be where, you know, I'm tracking all my clutches through my YouTube channel and through Instagram, and as things are coming, people kind of already know, they're already expecting them because I've been posting about them a lot, and I would
Yep.
love to believe that just hopefully those babies kind of sell through, you know, my social media presence
Nice.
as they come. Now that's not to say like, oh no, I don't want to vend shows, because dude, I like going to Arlington and like Alyssa from Full Throttle, I was hanging out with them while I was there. Like they kind of like, you know, helped me to get out there and like pick me up from the airport and the whole nine. So like I was behind her table, you know, a lot at the show, and
Yeah.
that was so much fun. Like she made the joke about like, she's like, Zach, she's like, I'm just gonna hire you next time to like come to one of our shows and like talk to my customers, because she's like, you're already doing it anyways. And like I have a sales background, but most of why I have a sales background is because I really just enjoy talking to people anyway. So like
Yeah.
if I happen to like, if somebody has a question, like if I see somebody walk up to your table and I'm behind your table and like you're busy or like you don't see them right away, my anxiety almost just like won't let them not
You
be
have to.
acknowledged. So I was just like, hey, like, you know, what's going on, guys? How are you liking the show? You know, I just immediately start talking to them,
Yeah.
and she would just like see me out of the corner of her eye, like, all right, like just whatever, go for it, you know. And so like I just basically was selling animals for her. I loved that, man. I would do that for anybody. If anybody is ever vending a show anywhere in the Southeast, and I'm serious, like if anybody needs help like at their tables, like I'm down. I and you guys know I can talk to anybody. And I won't charge anything. It would just be fun, because it really was. It was just enjoyable for me, man, to talk animals and like, you know, especially there, because in a lot of it was like people that were new getting into it, so they had questions about snakes and setups and stuff like that, and genes and whatnot. So it was exciting for me just talking to people that were like where I once was. Like I loved that. It was and it was nice to also be in the position of like talking to somebody the way that I wish that people would have talked to me about stuff early on. You know, like rather than like what happened to me where we got sold a lemon blast and a normal, and like, you know, yeah, like you guys can breed these and make lemon blasts and this, that, and I'm just like, all right, yeah, that sounds great, you know.
Yep.
It's nice to not just take it as an opportunity to sell an animal, but take it as an opportunity to like help somebody on the right track, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so yeah, like that, you know, that was really cool. But the flip side, yeah, just like Kathleen said, the flip side of that is I really like to be able to walk around at the shows. And so and I've been hearing that more and more from a lot of breeders, man, that they're like, you know, I don't really want to vend. Like and Kabilka while I was talking to him, he was like, yeah, he's like, you know, you know, he would try to walk around, and it's tough because people want to talk to him anyways, you know, and he's trying to see what's there too. But then he was like, yeah, he's like, I got to get my camera out and go film some stuff. I was like, dude, I was like, I should be. I was like, but I'm just going to be, I've decided like an hour ago, I'm just going to live in the moment and enjoy this show.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, I wish I could. He's like, I wish I could. He's like, but the internet, like, you know, he's like, they, you know, the people want what people want. He's like, so, you know, it was so it was still work for him, you know, and like, not that he was not, I don't want anybody to think that he was like down in the mouth about it, but you know, at some point, like part of that stuff just does become stuff you have to do for work. So yeah, so I would love to believe that I won't ever necessarily like have to vend at shows, but I you know, it may become something that you know, I do want to do, because I loved when I was hanging out with Alyssa and all them. They have like a little family of people that are like at all the shows every weekend, you know, like Bob Vu is a great dude, and like he's at like every show anywhere in the Southeast. Bob Vu has a table there, and he sells a ton of animals, man, and he's super successful with it, and that's really cool, you know, because like that's all the work that he really has to do, you know, because someday I might reach a point where I'm like, the online sales part sucks. Like I hate answering emails and like answering DMs about snakes, you know. I might reach a point where I would prefer to sell in person.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to really say, but yeah, as of right now, that's kind of my plan, is that for me to mostly be like more of an online presence and just have my stuff sold before it even hits the market. I really like the way that Garrett does his stuff. You know, with basically having like a waiting list for animals, like that would be huge.
Yeah.
You know, if you can have it, like, I literally had somebody, so he, for those that don't know, and we can kind of rotate into this because I know it kind of came up before we were talking. For those that don't know, I did lose my my male retic. You know, I have the world's only pair, or had the world's only pair of visual tiger het rennet ghosts that were 50% slayers. So I was shooting for, you know, I would have been the first person in the world to make dwarf rennet ghosts, super tigers, or, you know, tigers, or dwarf rennet ghosts at all have never been made, which would have been really exciting. So I lost that male, unfortunately. There was nothing that can be done about it, you know, and it's fine. You know, I've dealt with that and processed it, and but no. So Garrett mentioned on his live the other day that, you know, he and I talked about it. He and I are gonna, you know, pick that project up and work together. And so I've got a pure Tom Belongin male that was his holdback male that's actually gonna get bred to that female. Well, he just mentioned that on his live, that like that's the direction that we're going to go, because it was really weird, man. Like, it was the day that I found out that I was going to have to euthanize him. It was Wednesday. I had just found out I was going to have to euthanize the snake, and like I was already like kind of like not knowing what was going to happen with the project now, you know. And so Garrett and I had just talked about it. Somebody on his live just randomly asks, hey, are you working with any rennet ghost in dwarfs or super dwarfs? And I'm like, what are the odds that today of all days somebody is suddenly interested in this? Like, nobody besides me has talked about rennet ghost dwarfs or super dwarfs ever that I've ever heard. Nobody's ever asked about this, but today they did. Anyway, so he gets talking about it, and he mentions that, yeah, like, he, you know, he's going to be working with me on the project. Well, dude, I end up getting a message on the Nava Reptiles Facebook page, which I don't even use. Like, I've never made a post to that page. I just have it so that nobody would make it, and, like, you know, like before I got to it or whatever, and like take over the page. Cause, you know, if somebody got pissed off at me, or one of my friends wanted to mess with me by creating that without me having ownership of it. Anyways, I really just made it as a placeholder. I don't use it. But somebody messaged me on there. They're like, hey, I do you have a waiting list for those animals? Like, I really want to get on it. I'm like, is this what it feels like to be Garrett Hartle? Like, I have people asking me to be on a waiting list for snakes that I'm telling this guy I might not have for like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's just for hets.
Dude, that's crazy.
Or excuse me, not even hets. That's for pos hets.
Pos hets.
And he's like wanting to get on the list for visuals. I'm like, dude, it might be 8 years before I have those. You know, but it was just weird. And he's like, I don't care. He's like, I want you to take down my name and information and like save it. He's like, if you want to. He's like, I'm not like saying you have to. He's like, but if you'll put me on the waiting list, he's like, the second you have babies, I want to.
Man,
I'm like, okay, this is weird. But yeah, so, and obviously it's different markets. You know, ball python market, I think, you know, it's a little bit more saturated. Sure. So if somebody doesn't have something available, you know, you can probably find it from somebody else or whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe not, you know, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think I'll ever be that unique with Ultramels that, you know, people will have to get them from me, I'm sure, but maybe.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
It depends what else you throw in there, right? Like, I mean, like, for instance,
sure.
the Mojave Trick at Ultramel, like, alone, that you can't even really find a price point on it, so it's. Nope. I mean, they can't be that.
I found the Zinga balls listed that where people had made Mojave Tricks, but I've never found anybody that had them with het Ultramel. So I didn't think about it. I guess that might be a world's first. I have no idea. Yeah. I have no idea. So it's totally possible.
And if not, I mean, it's up there. There's probably only a couple.
Yeah, I'm sure that pairing has not been done a lot by any means. The Mojave has been in Ultramel for a long time. It was, for whatever reason, was one of the early ones that got put in there. And so it's not like that's a super unique thing, but the combination with Trick, sure. And I think Trick is getting a lot of traction again too, because of the hurricane stuff, with everybody saying, oh, hurricane is Trick and blah, which I don't know if it is or not. If it is, great. I mean, I don't think it's going to hurt me. Like I said, I told somebody the other day when they asked, I'm like, if it is, then sure. If it's not, I don't care. I'm not on the losing end of it, no matter how that battle plays out.
Yeah, exactly.
If you know, I'm going to win and come out clean no matter what, because either my animals will suddenly be worth a little bit more because people will be interested in them, or it won't be the same thing and my animals will have the same value that they did yesterday.
Yeah, so exactly. There's no. It's not like you've invested. That's the thing, right? It depends how much you've invested in something, and like. Even then, I mean, dude, you're attracted to the look of the animal. And unless you spent a buttload of money onto that gene, you're still attracted to the look. That's the whole point of this. Like, it's you know, we're trying to make animals that we want to see visually. If we can make money while doing it, that's awesome. I'm not saying you know, trying to...
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing, you know. For a lot of people probably don't know this. I don't know that I've ever really talked about it, but that female Trick that I have, the only reason I have her, and this... I don't love where I got her from, but it's it's a funny part of the story, especially now that I have babies from her.
Yeah.
I traded her to who I now know is like an animal flipper. Again, I was very early in the hobby. I knew very little. I traded a male visual Ultramel for that female trick plus some cash. So I got, I had this male visual Ultramel that I bought. I realized I bought too early. I'm like, I don't need this male. Like, I shouldn't have bought him to begin with, but I got him for a really good deal from an auction. I think I paid like $200 for him.
Oh, nice.
And, or maybe less than that. It might have been like 150. Either way, I didn't pay much for him. And so I ended up selling him to this guy for like $100. $100 plus like this visual trick female that was like a 500 gram female. So I was like, all right, cool, that worked out, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, because and this was the other thing. This was another of like the early on that made me go, I really like Ultramel. Like, it was very validating. I went to this show, so it was Repticon Charlotte, which is not a big show. It's kind of a crappy show. Like, Bob Vu was like, "Oh, that show sucks." He's like, "I never make any money there." He's like, I just keep going, hoping it's gonna get better. You know, he's like, normally it pays for my gas and my booth or whatever, but he's like, it's not like a great show. I'm like, yeah, trust me, I get it. Because there's just not a market in Charlotte. It's very weird, man. Super weird. For a big city, there's not a market here, and I hope to also have an effect on that. But what I was gonna say is, going to that show. Ask me how many visual Ultramels there were. Not a fucking one. There was zero. Not one single Ultramel. So that animal flipper who's at every show every weekend, he was like, I don't even know what the fuck to pay you for that. Which part of that was probably a little bit of a sales pitch, which is, you know, and I'm not dumb. I'm not ignorant to that. Yeah. But there was a guy across from him that did have some heads that worked with Ultramel. I cannot remember the breeder's name. It was somebody I'm somewhat familiar now with, but I don't remember exactly who it was. He was like, hey, he's like, how much do you sell like your visual Ultramel males for? And the guy was like, always like, you know, he told him like $300 or something like that, or whatever it was at the time. And so that was how we worked the deal out. But then, dude, at Arlington NARBC, there was no visual Ultramels. Not one. In the entirety of the Arlington NARBC, there was like 3 tables that had heads.
Holy crap.
And so again, going back to it, like what I was talking about with Morph Market, like on one hand, you can look at that as like, okay, there's something here. You know, I can have if I set out a table full of Ultramels, I'll be the only fucking person maybe at the time selling them. You know, and on the flip side, it's like, well, maybe it's because nobody wants them, but I don't think that's the case anymore.
I don't think so.
I think the depth of the market is super fucking shallow, and I think that there's a lot of fucking people that want them. I think that demand is going to be met pretty quickly, because I know a ton of people that are now working with Ultramel, making hets, making visuals. You know, people that maybe had some stuff that they just weren't using yet or whatever, or starting to change gears and work that into their projects, which is super exciting to see.
It is.
Just the more that it gets talked about, but yeah, it was just very validating, man, to just see how few people are really doing much with this stuff. It's going to be cool.
And then, like, we talked about this when I was on your channel, but like, I think unfortunately Caramel kind of just took away from it for a little bit, but it is crazy because, like, and even Caramel within itself, short of the issues it has, they're beautiful genetics. Like, I mean,
and even at that, I think Billy was saying the other day that he doesn't really have that much trouble out of them. He's like, once in a while, he's like, you'll get a whole clutch of slugs or whatever. He's like, but like, I've bred them. He's like, I've bred them for like a couple of generations, and like, they've been fine. So it's really, but again, you know, especially back when it came out, you know, if you had even one person say and show proof that like they bred them and they got nothing out of it, or like they couldn't be bred and like there was issues with the genetics, that would kill a project really fast back then, because it was all about making the fast money, and you know, nobody was going to take a risk on it. And even now it's the same way. I mean, I'm not going to buy any Caramel by any means, you know, because it's like, if the odds of getting a good clutch is like, even if it's like there's a 70% chance that she's going to go and I'll get good eggs, it's like, I'd rather take the chance on having good females that go most of the time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you have, that's another thing too, like, we found the Ultramel gene, so why unless you have Caramel, like, I mean, buy into Ultramel, man. We don't, there's no known issues with it, so, you know, it I don't know, I guess it could be argued, but I think it does look better personally than Caramel.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Caramel browns out a little more. Yeah, Caramel's got more brown tones. And there's been people that have said the same thing about Ultramel. I personally haven't seen that. Like I've got, granted she's not super old yet. She's not like a 2,000 or 3,000 gram female, but I've got a pretty good sized visual Ultramel female that I'll show you, and she's still super bright. I have made the point before. I almost wonder if some people have like their genetics labeled incorrectly on some of their Ultramel stuff.
Yeah, maybe thinking it's caramel instead.
Yeah, maybe they have caramel or something.
Yeah,
but
thinking it's Ultramel.
And there was a couple of lines of Ultramel, but I mean, you can see she's not brown by any means.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
no,
she's,
not at all.
And like I said, she may fade some more as she gets older, but I mean, I think she's still visually just stunning.
Dude, she's so clean too. Like, wow.
Yeah, and like this, like if anything, what I've noticed with her, she's definitely not as bright as she was, obviously, when she was a baby.
Yeah.
But she's gotten so much more purple now in these, you know,
Man,
in her pattern.
She's gorgeous though. How big is she?
How much do you weigh? I've got
roughly.
a scale. Well, my scale's sitting out, so I might as well just weigh her. I haven't weighed her for a while. If I can get her to kind of ball it and sit here.
Yeah. It's all good if you can, man. Don't worry.
She's about 1,400 grams, so
Nice.
she's ready to go.
Dude,
She's
that's
going to
awesome.
get paired as soon as the male is to size. The male that I'm getting from Marshall Mendez.
Yeah.
So she's going to get paired to a pastel clown het Ultramel.
Oh, dude, that
So
is,
yeah, so all the babies will be, you know, I'll have a shot at, you know, pastels obviously, and then everything will be double het. So pastel, double het, ultra clowns.
That's sick.
At least that's the plan for right, or excuse me, I'll have a shot at visual Ultramels,
Yes.
het for clown. That's what I meant to say. So you know, that's the plan. Is like if I like to hopefully hit at least one, you know, visual Ultramel het clown female, and I'll just keep her. And hold that back to hopefully have like a powerhouse ultra clown male later on that I can, you know, throw in and just have that easier path to having crazy combos of ultra clowns.
Yeah, man. I'm loving that project, so I'm excited for you, man.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. I
Awesome
think it's gonna be really good.
Have
Desert
you heard
Ghost in there and all that stuff.
Have you heard of that?
Camarillo, I am not super familiar. Like I've definitely heard of it, but I don't know exactly what in the hell it is, and I can't.
I'm trying to think of what that is. I have no idea. I don't know if I even recognize that or not.
Camarillo. Is that what they call the caramel with Ultramel visual? Because I think that I remember that they're like compatible. Like you can make a double visual caramel ultra.
Weird.
Later, Aurora. Thanks for being here.
See you, Aurora. Thank you.
Yeah, Jerome, that is a good point about Discords kind of being the new forums. You're not wrong in the organization and stuff.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. How's it going, Owen?
Camarillo. I wonder if Camarillo is its own thing. Let's see.
Mike said he's gonna send me a pic. Yeah. Send me.
Yeah,
a pic.
it's just okay. I think Camarillo it's like a secondary line of caramel is what World of Ball Pythons is referring to it as.
Okay.
Because it says recess genetics, recess. Oh no, it's caramel. Yeah, this is weird. So according to World of Ball Pythons, it's the cross between the bell line caramel and a caramel. So it's still just a caramel, but it's like a weird combination of two lines. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super familiar with that. I would have to. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, Pike. Yeah, send that to Sal and he'll send it my way.
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Or you can send it to me or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like the picture on World of Ball Pythons is a beautiful snake. It doesn't look like a caramel to me. Like it looks really nice. So.
It looks different. Weird.
And same thing, you know, with Ultramels. Like I was saying before, there was two lines initially, and somebody was talking about it the other night actually about how early on people were lying and saying that those lines were incompatible because they didn't want people like successfully breeding them. I guess like they were trying to like kind of hold people back and like force you into buying from their line or the other line.
Yeah.
And keeping them super separate. Caramel albino ultra. Okay, so it is the double. Okay, yeah, and that's what I was expecting you to say.
Yeah,
was that it was the visual of the caramel and Ultramel. I bet they just have it listed wrong on World of Ball Pythons. I bet they meant to say the bell line Ultramel and not the bell line caramel.
Right.
That's probably what it was supposed to be. Because I think there was a Bell line Ultramel, and then there was like the Noah line, which was also the same as somebody else. I don't remember. But I know there was like 2 lines that were the same with 2 different names, and then there was another line. Anyways, Kabilka was one of the early people to prove that the lines were compatible.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, and World of Ball Pythons, man, like it's great. Don't get me wrong, but
they're behind.
They're behind, and there's a lot of combos that are just not correct. Just
yep.
to be like flat out.
And I've made the point to somebody before that if they would get their stuff together and if they would implement like the sales side, like Morph Market, like they would do well. Great. You know, they could still be. It's just, you know, I don't know enough about programming and stuff to know the amount of time that it would take to fix everything that they've got going on. But I'm sure it wouldn't be freaking easy because there's a ton of information on there.
Oh yeah,
and like you said, not all of it's 100% accurate. So.
It's funny because you know, back in earlier like 2010, 11, 12, somewhere in that range. Anyways, one of the snakes I'd always wanted to see how it looked was a Mojave Pied, and
yeah,
they're changed
beautiful
it now, but before they showed it as an all white snake. So
really,
like back in the day, and this was years and years ago, they had it because and I don't know if they were breeding from a bell that was lesser Mojave Bell, and then it was a lesser Pied that was showing that, but they had it as an all-white snake. So
Billy was saying that about another combination the other day. I can't remember what it was. Yeah,
but
and they still haven't updated it.
Damn. And now I think they've updated the Mojave Pied now, but yeah, it ruined it for me because I was like, dude, Mojave Pieds are sick. Like they're
they're beautiful. I love Mojave Pieds.
Oh, and
I'm a huge fan.
Blackhead in there and leopard.
Yeah,
and it's a killer combo.
Yeah, I like Mojave a lot. I was a little torn on it kind of early on, and like somebody made a comment to me one time that like they weren't trying to be. I don't even think they were like talking to me about like my animals or whatever. They were just like made the comment that they were like, I don't like Mojave and Ultramel, and I was like, you know, even me, like I still second guess things sometimes. I'm like, maybe it's not that good, you know, but just cause. And to their point, like obviously you don't want too much Mojave in your Ultramel projects, which is why like I debated on not even keeping that Bazinga Ball Ultramel, you know, that Mojave trick. I'm like, maybe I should just keep one of the tricks, and I probably will keep one of each. Yeah. Is what I've decided at this point. Just because otherwise I don't really know what else I'm going to breed it to. But yeah, you know, because obviously I don't at least not at this point in my career or whatever you want to call it. I don't really want to shoot for bells. If I start doing shows and that's what I say. Like I think shows are great for if you produce a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just two very different business models.
For sure. Absolutely.
You know, if the stuff that you're doing produces a lot of that, like those like simple 2-gene combos and stuff, like I think that stuff's poised for shows.
Oh, absolutely, man. Bells,
and I'm not.
Pieds, and
yeah.
You know.
I probably should be producing more of that, realistically. Yeah. I'm sure that I probably should be making more of those combinations in order to kind of like have stuff that sells a little easier to the average person. Because, I mean, there's only so many people that are going to buy a $4,000 or $5,000 animal.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'll find out, I guess. You know, not that all my stuff's going to be that high end. I mean, again, I'm going to have a lot of hets and stuff like that. But, like, those babies from that fire yellow belly spot nose, I don't know what those things are going to be worth. But I mean, there could be, you know, based on like Kabilka prices, there could be like some $4,000 or $5,000 animals in there.
Oh yeah.
You know, and obviously some of that stuff's gonna be holdbacks. A lot of that stuff's probably gonna be holdbacks, but
yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see. I don't know.
It's hard, especially when we're first starting out. And like all of my stuff that you know, like the dream kind of snakes that you have in your head from your clutches. In my head, it's always like, oh man, I can't wait to get that so I can hold it back. Yeah. It's never in my head to be like, oh, I can't wait to produce a $4,000 to sell.
I'm just excited to produce stuff I can't afford to buy.
Exactly, man.
I don't care about selling that stuff. Yeah. If I can produce a male out of there that will retire my Mojave Ultramel male, like I'll be stoked about that. You know, that's the other exciting part is like looking and seeing that I'm really close to like that next step, which is like I'm only now working with stuff I produced. You know, like I produced my own breeder male. Like that would be cool. Like if I got like a fire yellow belly spot nose Mojave Ultramel male, like why not? Like I'm keeping it. You know, obviously I'm keeping it, and I can retire, you know, his dad. Yeah. And I can put him back to other stuff, you know, the following year, and just have, you know, that powerhouse stuff. And that's that's the way that model should work, as you. But again, that's hoping and praying that you hit crazy wild odds on
exactly.
on crazy combinations, So it's,
I always hope for the best, hope for the best.
Of course,
the worst,
yeah,
and,
of course,
go from there. But that will be a great feeling, man. To I always kind of forget about that aspect where it's like.
So do I.
You produce this thing, and then you get to keep it, and then you get to watch it grow, and then release what like that.
Yeah.
That's a great.
I never thought that far. The first person that pointed that out to me was Garrett Hartle.
Yeah.
When I was talking to him about, I say it all the time, but I've been really, really lucky to get as much guidance from him as I have over the years. Because so going back to what you were asking, how I got into snakes and all that, and I was kind of telling that story. I actually, so my girlfriend at the time, like I said, she was really the one that had the ball pythons. I don't remember when I actually bought my first ball python for our business or our breeding group.
Right.
What I bought first actually was not ball pythons. I personally bought that pair of world's only dwarf 50% Solaire dwarf visual tiger het rennet ghosts. I actually bought into the dwarf and super dwarf stuff before I was a ball python guy.
Yeah.
And I don't think I actually ever said that because I honestly kind of forgot, because there was so much crossover, and because I'm the one that ended up with all the animals from my ex.
Yeah.
Long story. I basically ended up buying all the animals from her eventually. When we split up, she took her animals, I took my animals, but then she had a kid, she had some other things come up, and just needed to kind of get out of it for a while. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
So I ended up with almost all of those animals, and that's kind of a lot of the stuff, not a lot, but a few of the animals in my collection are still from her, which is cool. But yeah, I was a dwarf and super dwarf guy in terms of snakes before I was a ball python guy. And he was, and I was having a conversation with him about I was looking at okay, I want to buy my next one. I want to build a breeding group of these things, and so I was like, hey, what do I need next to work into my Rennet Ghost project? And he's like, man, honestly, I could sell you some females or whatever. He's like, but really, where you should probably be thinking is with your size and with a project like that. He's like, you're gonna produce what you need next. He's like, you're gonna with that first pairing. He's like, because you're gonna have pos hets, because they're both just het Rennet Ghost.
Yeah. He's
like, you need to be thinking about it from the standpoint of you're gonna hold back a male that's visual, because he's like, the odds are you'll get one male visual. He's like, so you'll hold that back. He's like, and then you're gonna hold back as many females as you possibly can. And that was where it clicked. Is I'm like. He's like, dude, you're going to make the stuff that you're going to be working this project with. And that was where my head kind of spun of holy shit, that's such a cool thought.
It is, man, seriously.
That I don't have to, and like I said, that was just advice straight from the man himself. And again, that was very specific to a project that I was working, because it was a project that literally, he's like, you can't buy anything else to work this project.
Yeah,
there's nothing else there's nothing else. There's no females to buy that are dwarf genetics that are het Rennet Ghost. They don't exist. You're the one making them. That's why I'm as much as I don't talk about it, that's what's so fucking exciting about this female behind me. Nobody else has that snake, dude. Nobody. It's crazy.
Nuts, man.
I forget about it sometimes. Nobody else has that animal. Nobody has the shot, and nobody can do anything that I can do here at Nava Reptiles. Nobody else can do it, and that's
amazing,
fucking
man.
That's nuts.
It is nuts.
And like I said, I forget about it, and I feel like it's a bragging thing to say, but it's just it's.
No,
I think you guys can tell from my expression and my energy that it's just that I'm just that excited about it.
You can see the excitement resonating from you, so it's not. You're not
I know I'm a pretty animated person, yeah.
But
so it's freaking cool,
awesome.
man.
That's awesome, man. And the nice thing too about something like that, and I'm not just saying it in a monetary sense, but you have time. You have the time, you can develop it. And I don't know. I'm not really good with retics, so I don't know the steps you need to take now, obviously with her to get those hets. So again, I'm not good with genetics in terms of retics.
No, you're good.
So do you have to get a specific male in order to I don't know how the dwarf thing works. So
I'll just kind of first I'll grab. Not that I need to, but I want to. Anyways, I'm gonna grab the male that we're gonna end up using.
Yeah, for sure.
So. So with the dwarf and super dwarf stuff, so it doesn't really work any different than ball pythons. Like genetics are genetics at the end of the day in terms of like the hets and like what's a incomplete dominant, what's a dominant.
Yep.
So this is still not even doing this guy's color any justice. So this is a pure dwarf. So he's a Tom belonging locality.
Yeah.
Which is considered like Saputrii, part of the retic world. It's called Saputrii. So Saputrii includes like Sulawesi, Solaire, Tom belonging. There's just a few localities that are considered Saputrii.
Okay.
So this is a 100% dwarf. So when you breed a 100% dwarf, so say she was a mainland, if she was a mainland and I bred him to her, all of the babies are now 50%. So it's just averages is all it is.
Yeah,
it's all averages. So, 100% to a 0% dwarf, 50% is the result.
Right.
So because she's 50% dwarf, when I breed this pure dwarf to her, all of the babies will be 75%. Okay. Because, you got 50 plus 100 is 150 divided by the two parents, 75%.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So it can get complicated when you start working with like 62.5% dwarfs and stuff, weird stuff, and then obviously localities. So because there's now two localities at work, this male will go to that female. That's Garrett and I's plan. So all the babies will be 25% Solaire, 50% Tom belonging.
Okay.
Is the breakdown because she's 50%, so you cut it in half when you get to her babies.
Yeah,
it's no different than calculating pos hets and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Right, where you've got a 100% het to a 100% het, and then it's
yeah.
Well, I guess it technically is kind of different. So
it's
don't actually use that math. It's very
kinda,
different, but
I know
it's just averages at the end of the day.
Yeah, they average it differently, but it does look similar.
Yeah, because every time they breed, each parent gives half of their locality percentage. So if they're both 100% Kalatoa, 100 plus, 100 and 100, all the babies are 100% Kalatoa. These, so it'll be a little different, but at the end of the day, they're 75% dwarf is what matters.
Yeah, that's
and all of the babies will be pos hets, so they'll be 50% pos hets because she's 100% het for Red and Ghost.
Right.
So that's the issue with where with having lost that male is that obviously there's no other animals that exist that have that het Rennet Ghost, genetics. There is. There's one other male that survived. For those that don't know, that's the other crazy part. Only 3 animals from their clutch lived. There was one female. There's no other females in the world at all.
I wanted to ask you that because I was like, how? Like, so was it just? So it was just her basically.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that's the thing. Had she died, I would have had a meltdown.
Oh,
I mean, not that I didn't have a meltdown over the male. Like, I mean, I was upset. Like, I didn't want to be on camera at the time. When I was leaving the vet and I was driving home, I was glad I was by my damn self. I'll put it that way. Like, I definitely had a breakdown. But like, if she had passed away, man, like God, like it would have been a fucking issue.
Oh my God, dude.
Because I would have had to then take that male and find somebody that was willing to breed him to a fully grown female.
Yeah.
And dude, they take so with dwarves and super dwarves, what people don't know, the ball python people, it takes about 5 years to get them to size to breed.
Holy crap, dude.
So it's not like with ball pythons where you might have a female go at 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
You're doubling that time, and so at least in this instance, this male will breed at like 1.5, 2 years old.
Nice.
So we're only about a year out. She'll be 3 in February. So next year she'll be 4. With the dwarf localities, like they're bigger body snakes. They're closer in size to mainlands, which she'll still be much smaller, but they're closer in size. They'll go at about 4 years old. So
nice.
Like the super dwarf stuff, you really do want to wait for that 5-year mark to make sure that they're like as big as they can be.
Yeah.
To make sure that they're not gonna have complications when they breed. But yeah, it's just a different thing. So yeah, all those. So same thing. It's just it'll be probably 8 years, before I have visual Rennet Ghosts, most likely.
Man, that's crazy. Holy crap.
Because I guess you got to think like because what I'll have to do is I'll have to take a male from this pairing. I'll have to just pick one, and say, okay, I think you're het Rennet Ghost.
Oh shit, dude.
That's the only way to do it, and pair him to mom. And roll the dice on maybe getting a visual Rennet Ghost, or he might not be het because they're all going to be pos hets.
Do they have any, like, I don't know, again,
They like it's
markers?
maybe they might have markers because with albinism, like you might get one that's a little lighter in color or something
Right.
like that, but there's no, like, it's not like pied and ball pythons where there's
Damn.
like a really obvious marker
Right.
or whatever. Yeah, because rennet ghost is just a different type of albinism.
Okay.
In retics, there's like it's the same thing as with ball pythons. There's like albinos, there's like white phase albinos, rennet ghost albinos, and then there's like lavenders, or purple albinos, and then lavenders, which lavender is an allelic combo between like albino and purple. I don't know, dude. Even I don't know retic genetics that good. I know about rennet ghost and some of that shit, but I don't know a lot of the allelic stuff. Is weird.
I really I wish we could have them here legally. It sucks so much that we can't.
Yeah.
And even like the dwarf species and stuff, because I mean we can have all of pythons here and they get like 9 feet, so I'm not sure exactly why.
Yeah, the issue is just because of the way they're classified. They still don't have their own classification. So like if or when, because I think there are people that are trying to get that done.
Yeah.
Like if a Karampa, which not that there's very fucking many of those in general, but if Karampa super dwarves were to get their own reclassification, then you could maybe try to make the legal argument that, hey, these scientifically, like on paper, this species stays under 9 feet. Then you could try to argue that, like, okay, like the size is within like what you guys want us to have, like we can maybe legally have these question mark. So there is some hope to be had there for sure, and I know like there are parts of Canada that you can have them. So it's just it just depends. It's just not widespread.
Ontario for sure. I don't know about anywhere else generally because that's really all I like see.
Yeah.
Where I'm at in Alberta, it's like there's a lot of strict rules, man. It kind of sucks. Like even the whole we're not allowed to have live rats. Like it.
Yeah, it's really weird.
It's a weird rule, and it's just funny to me that you can have mice and ASFs but no live rats.
See, that's the even weirder part is the ASF thing. It's like it doesn't.
No, it doesn't make sense, man. And like it's funny too because there are live in both provinces that are beside me. Both of them have live rats living there in the wild. So as if they think that the live rats are going to stop at the border and be like, this is Alberta, we can't go there. Like,
it's just weird, and it's just one of those just dumb things, and it may never change. And with the government, it's like you almost don't want to poke the bear because it's like you don't know if they might decide to go the other way with it. Like, oh, we didn't even realize we hadn't outlawed ASFs. Like those definitely also need to be outlawed. Like you come to them hoping to get rats legalized, and you end up going the other way with it. So it's hard to say, but yeah, man, this will be a really exciting project because the upside is that the babies from that male and female, the male that I lost, they would have only been 50% dwarf, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, those, like, in terms of what the market wants, what the market is demanding, those are still not, like, super valuable. The only value that those would have had is the fact that they would have been the only time that visual rennet ghost was brought into the genetics, right? Now, that's really cool because rennet ghost is amazing, and I think there's people that are waiting for that to come into the dwarf and super dwarf stuff, but it wouldn't have been like, oh man, everybody would have been lined up waiting for one, because there's still going to be a good sized snake, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that the size being impressive is still something, but they're not nearly as accessible as like a super dwarf. Like, you want your snake to stay under 9 feet? Cool, we got you.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have been that. So by adding in this Tombalongan bloodline, because like this male, he'll be under 10 feet when he's fully grown. And so having his bloodline in with hers is going to be great. The other side of it too is that the Tombalongan, I don't like I said, he's basically yellow, and there's no morph in this animal. I'll show you guys what a normal retic coloration looks like in a second if I can convince my super dwarf to come out without killing me. Because like so you'll see just kind of, if you guys are watching, take kind of a snapshot in your head of this guy's coloration on camera, and I'll show you what locality influence can really do.
Yeah, for sure.
So let me see if I can get him to go back in. Hey, sweetie. Yeah, he's biting the hook. Let me get him out of food mode. And
he's on it.
Come here, bud. Don't buck me. You're being a jerk right now. Come on. Yeah, there you go. All right, so this coloration is more typical, very
Oh, yeah.
brown. So you can see, like, by comparison, just how brown he is to that last one that I was holding was almost like yellow and orange.
Oh, definitely.
And that's just locality. You're not gonna bite the hook and then get right next to my face and think I'm gonna trust you, dude. But yeah, this is a mixed locality super dwarf. I don't actually know what localities he is, but he is pure. I mean, you can see he's not super long. He's less than 5 feet long,
Yeah.
and he's about 3 years old as well.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's wild, right? To think that
Yeah.
like this is the same as a mainland, but it's this tiny. I mean,
That's
you
so
can see
weird.
like my fingers fit around him with like
Yeah,
some room
dude.
to spare.
That's
Super
so
easy.
3 years
And
old.
he
Yeah.
ate 3 medium rats this week.
Shit, dude.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
nuts.
So I mean, it's
so
it's not
cool.
like I underfeed him.
No, not at all.
You know.
That
So
is
yeah,
crazy.
they still get some good size to them, but or they still stay really small. But yeah, so you can see that locality. So that's why I say
Yeah.
like it's still going to be a really good pairing because obviously that crazy influence of like how yellow that other animal's head is, and all those oranges and stuff. It'll be really nice to have that influence. You know, once I do finally produce the visual albinos.
Yeah, man, dude, that's gonna be awesome. Like, yeah, I'm pretty excited for you, and just like I said, you know, being able to work something like that where no one else can work it. It's just, but as funny as it is, and I'm sure you're probably like, oh my god, dude, don't snipe me. I love.
No, he's
I
never
love-
bit. This snake has literally never bitten me. I mean, knock on wood. I'll
Yeah.
say that on the stream, and then I'll end up getting lit up. But yeah,
Right.
he's never bitten me before.
I love their personality, man. Every time I see Retic, I'm like, dude, you guys are just like, I swear, you're like the genius of the snake world. I don't know if that plays true or not, but
It
just
kinda
seem
does.
So smart, man.
Yeah, well, they just want to cruise, and they're just like really super curious, you know. And that's the thing, like, you know, he bit the hook when I took him out, but that was really just because he wants to eat again.
Yeah,
Even though
yeah,
he
for
just,
sure.
like I said, he literally just ate 3. He's eaten. Well, he didn't just eat 3 medium rats. He ate 1 live medium that would not go or would not be eaten by my male ball python.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a choice but to give it to him. And then he ate 2 medium frozen thawed the other night because somebody else didn't eat. So he's kind of my garbage disposal on occasion. Normally
Yep.
it's the female. It just depends on like who hasn't eaten, and that's why normally I feed them pretty light. Like I might give them 1 medium or something. Please don't poop on my head. But yeah. Oh yeah, the male retics are definitely the crazy ones, 100%.
I miss having a boa, man, because like that was one aspect I always loved about having like a bigger boa around was you know, a couple leftovers here and there. It's just nice to be able to feed them that.
Yeah, you don't have to think about like what am I going to do with this, like just throw it away or whatever.
Exactly.
Just- I'm like, oh, I know what I can do with this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm loving it.
All right, go back in, dude. No, stay in, please. That's the other thing. Once they
Yeah,
come
trying
out,
to get
they're
him
like,
back in.
Oh yeah, which I always feel bad because I know all he wants to do is cruise around. But I am gonna put him into a bigger cage soon.
Nice.
He'll finally be out of a tub. It's a sad thing, but you know he's gonna get that male's big 4-foot cage, so you know
Yeah.
it works out in his advantage. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome,
Anyways,
man.
that's over.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we'll probably, if anyone has any questions for Zach or anything,
Yeah, fire away. Otherwise,
but otherwise we'll probably start closing this down here. And yeah, but this was awesome, man. I'm glad you were able to come in and
yeah, for sure, dude. Like I said, you know, I always like, you know, as not be selfish. I like when I get a chance to kind of talk. 'Cause, you know, I love having my guests on and getting to talk about just anything and everything and learn more about people that I don't know, you know, that well yet. But yeah, you guys know I like to word vomit about stuff that nobody ever asks me about. You know, like the you know graphs on Morph Market, just the stupid, you know, little things of how my brain works. So
But
I like to share that stuff and just kind of get other people's, you know, thoughts and opinions and kind of make sure I'm not just crazy, you know, thinking
No,
about
you're
some of
not.
this stuff. So
You're not. That's what's
Yeah.
great about it, right? And like that's why like I love watching your lives, but I wanted you to be able to have a chance to, you know, chat about your side of it, right? Like I've heard, you know, certain things before, but not in the same depth. It's just nice to kind of hear the depth of it, and like even like with your retics right there, like you kind of taught me something that I didn't already know. I have zero knowledge in terms of retics. I just like the look of them. I've always, whenever I watch videos, and especially a lot of those like videos of you know, people at shows and stuff, when I see retics, it's always interesting to me because I don't get to see them in person. I've never seen a retic in person, so you know.
Yeah, I had never held one until I owned one.
Yeah, see, like, that's insane, man.
And then, you know, I had seen him at shows and stuff, but it was always like mainlands, and it was like people that are there like, yeah, man, pay me $20, I'll let you take a picture with it. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I don't.
Come on, man.
I just don't.
Yeah, like
that's how the Charlotte Repticon is, to give you guys an idea.
Oh,
there's always some dude there with a berm or a big mainland that's like, yeah, $20 per picture. I'm like, really? Like, what is this, a fucking carnival? Like,
yeah,
come
on,
on,
in Miami Beach right
now.
Yeah,
you're really making us really representing the hobby well there.
Yeah, exactly.
You got the Tiger King of berms and retics over here. $20 for a picture.
Hey kids, come on.
Pike, to answer your question, besides clown, Desert Ghost is already kind of being worked into things. I like that. I haven't really thought like super far about this. I like the Ultra Glow stuff. Give me a second to kind of think on that, because I think outside of recessives, obviously like the Krypton stuff, I'll kind of count that as its own thing, even though it's just really an allelic combination. But it kind of acts like, I guess it doesn't really act like a recessive, but to an extent, I'm putting it in that same classification.
Yeah.
I like. I think really the best answer I could give you is what I want to get into it in terms of like supers. So you know, I would like to see like super blackhead Ultramel. I want to see super GHI Ultramels. Super lace, a white lace Ultramels. Like I am personally of the opinion that a lot of us are not working with incomplete dominance the way we should be. I think that almost every incomplete dominant, in my opinion, should be treated as a het super. I think that's a big miss, and I think for the same reason. So first of all, because the visuals most of the time, because sometimes the supers are underwhelming. Like super leopard is a thing, but like visually you can't, like they're hard to identify, you know. I think Kabilka like kind of can tell you like maybe, but you know, like it's hard. Like super coral glows, like they're a little brighter, they're neat, but they're not anything over the top. The flip side of that is like it makes it easy for like the genetics and a lot of the stuff, like super GHIs are crazy in terms of pattern. Like GHIs are great, super GHIs are amazing, you know. And the other side of that is, like I was telling you guys, I love to look at things as like, where is there opportunity, where is there not a lot of depth. And there's like if you go try to buy a super GHI, they're not available, and if they are, they're expensive because of what they do. And so like I think it'd be really cool if you could start layering things like a super GHI blackhead Ultramel would be nuts. You know, it'd be a lot of dark genes, but you'd have that Ultramel. So I think it'd be like super purple with a crazy fucking pattern.
Yeah.
You know, so stuff like that I think really excites me, and I think that's a lot of where I'm going to start pushing. Like super pastel. Super pastel is a lot nicer than a regular fucking pastel. They're way brighter. They're way cleaner. Same thing. I just think that a lot of people are using these incomplete dominants as like, sure, I'll throw that in there, you know, because it adds a little something. But I think supers need to be really pursued a lot more. So yeah, that would be where I'm going with that. What was the other one? Thoughts on lavender clown pied versus lavender DG pied? So I'm probably one of like the few people that can say for some reason. This is just gonna break your heart, Sal. Probably.
Oh no.
I don't love clown pies. I don't know if it's just I haven't seen a lot of, like, I haven't looked at a lot of them because I'm not working that direction, and so I haven't looked at a lot. Like I love the head stamps.
Yeah.
But send me the right ones, because I probably just haven't really seen the right ones, because I know they're beautiful. At a glance, I just haven't looked at a lot of them to say like, oh man, clown pot, you know. So I personally just, I think lavender DG pod is probably something I would like more.
Yeah.
Personally. But like I said, I'm
No,
that's based on what I've seen right now. Because there's probably like some clown pied combo that I need to fucking see that's gonna blow my mind. But I ain't seen it yet. Because somebody was like, people get really excited about clown pies, and I don't know if it's just because they're so hard to make. Like I sometimes worry that people get too excited about combinations because of like what it took to make it, and less about what it actually looks like.
Yeah.
And again, I'm always skeptic about everything, even my own projects that I work in. I always ask the opposite questions just to kind of make sure I'm on the right track with stuff. So yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, when I jump off here, I'm gonna do some digging into some clown pies and see if it's something I should change my mind about.
Do some digging, man.
yeah. I don't know. Like I said, because pie changes the pattern up so much, and so everything I love about clown, which is that just neat like raindrop pattern and all that, seems to just kind of go away when you get into the pie, aside from the head pattern. So I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a
spot nose pie I'd probably like better. I don't. But again, like that's different. So.
You have to what's the great thing about this is like if everyone liked the same stuff, it would be
we'd all make the same shit.
Yeah, and it would just be repetitive. So it's good to expand, and like I am a huge fan of clown pie, but that doesn't mean you have to be
and same thing. It doesn't. It could just be that, like I said, just because as with every other gene that's underappreciated, we just haven't seen the right combination yet. Well, I visibly haven't seen every clown pie that's ever been made. I've looked at a couple, and when I've looked at them, I've never looked at them like through a microscope the way I look at an Ultramel combination. I look at them like. And I just keep scrolling, because it's not a direction I'm working in. It's not anything I'm even remotely close to being able to afford to work with. So I just haven't thought about it. I'm sure there's some amazing stuff that's going on with it. I just haven't looked that close into them. So I would say lavender DG pie, but that's and same thing with DG. I think it's great in the right combinations, but I just wonder if it's just, I don't know. I'm not even, I just think it's a little bit overhyped, but not in a bad way. Like, I'm not gonna say literally overhyped. I just think like I'm just waiting to kind of see some different stuff, because I love the base gene. Even in Ultramel, I was like, okay, that's it. Like, it's just brighter, but it's probably because I wasn't looking super close at it. I'd like to see them in person. I would like to see some better like high res images of them, so that I can really kind of assess what exactly it's bringing to the table.
I will say,
before I dismiss anything.
Before I saw one in person, I was the exact same way. I was like, I don't get it. I was like, okay, it's a hypo on steroids. Essentially. That's how I thought of it. Yeah. But then when I saw it in person, it changed. For my particular one, I only have one. But for my particular one, when I saw it in person, I was like, holy crap, this is way different than I see them online. Yeah.
And I think I told you, dude, I wanted to buy into Desert Ghost like when I was still with my ex-girlfriend, like 5 years ago, or like 3 years ago. I wanted to buy into Desert Ghost because I was like, I saw people talking about it a lot, but there weren't really any available because people like Kabilka and those guys were buying them up, and and they because they saw the potential, which is great.
Yes.
So yeah, I know there's a lot to be done with Desert. Like, the Desert Ghost clowns are gorgeous, which, I mean, everything looks good with clown at this point. Absolutely. For the most part. There's just not much that doesn't. Desert Ghost Ultramel Pike. If you want to see some of those, look up Dean Van Omeren. If you literally type, it's Dean, Deen, I think, on Facebook. You can look through some of his posts, but it's Dean Van Omeren. He has already made the visual Desert Ghost Ultramel, as well as like, it's like, I guess like I said early on, I think it's like Desert Ghost Ultramel, Krypton, and I think it's got maybe Pastel or something else in there. So yeah, those have already been made, and they are really, really, really pretty. I just want to, like I said, I want to see some different pictures of them and get a kind of a better understanding of exactly what it's doing. One with it and one without. But it's exciting. It brings a lot to the table everywhere. It's especially in terms of how things age.
I think DG too. Like, well, from what I've seen, in my opinion, of course, like, I think. It was sweet because when Pastel DGs came out, everyone was like, oh man, like the lighter genes are looking so sick. But it's actually, for me, it's the darker genes that interest me more in Desert Ghost because of the blacks it's bringing. Yeah. Because everyone's kind of highlighting that ghostish type look that it has, but it's the blacks that brings back.
Yep, that's what I was just gonna say. Because on the base animal, I don't look at where it's lightning, and I look at all the black, and I tend to, and it's weird because early on when I got into ball pythons, I didn't like the dark genes. I was like, why does anybody want these? Like, I liked all like the bright orange, which is why I probably liked Ultramel right away.
Yeah.
But then I also didn't like albino for whatever reason. I think I was just like,
Same
yeah, it's
here.
just a yellow snake. I like that in between. But now I'm seeing the same thing that Kabilka preaches to everybody, is that like we need to bring the contrast back in. We need the dark genes to prevent ourselves from sliding down that slippery slope towards like what you and I talked about on my live, of making all yellow snakes again, like making all these like just the same freaking looking thing, because we've just got too much just muddiness going on and nothing bringing the dark back and keeping that there. We need both. So I think that's why I think blackhead is my favorite darkening gene. So that's why I say I think same, it's the same reason I like GHI. It's the same reason I like leopard. They're dark. Trick is the same way. It's a dark animal. The blacks on my female trick are way blacker than on like a normal ball python.
Yeah, exactly.
and more abundant. And so I think we need a lot of that. And so things like like a blackhead desert ghost Ultramel, I think would be fucking cool.
Yeah, that'll be sick.
Just stuff like that. So that's where my head's at, in terms of like just that stuff.
Yeah.
I think anybody that doesn't have dark genes in their project, like whether it's black pastel, pick the one you like. Chocolate, whatever it is. Wookiee is a really cool one because it does both. It's a lot like Desert Ghost, but in an incomplete dominant. In the sense that it does bring that darkness, but then you see it when it gets into those other combinations, it brings those like silver sides up the belly, so it does also do some lightning. So it's just neat, man. There's a lot. It's just a lot.
So there's just so much, and that was one of the DG combos that attracted me, was just a simple cinnamon DG. That was like one of the ones that I saw, and I was like, holy shit, dude, that is.
If I had one in my rack, I would look at it every day. They're just like art, and so I think I will at some point. I'll work DG in, but I can't afford it right now. So I hope that female I just bought that I'm going down to pick up next weekend is probably the last thing I'll buy for a long time. Yeah. At least probably for easily the next year, just because, dude, it's expensive. This stuff gets expensive fast. It is, and so I'm at the point, like, I think I might have 10 grand invested at this point in the hobby, and for somebody that makes the money that I make, that's a lot to have just tied up that it hasn't paid me anything back. Yep. So I'm gonna have to hold off on getting any DG or any like any of the crazy stuff I was talking about getting for a while, but it'll come.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing. When it's especially like if you don't have $250,000 laying around, like one project at a time, take it slow, and it's
one step at a time, and then again, just. I'll make my own next females and next males that I want to keep, and I'll sell off the other stuff, and those things will pay for the stuff that I want to bring in. So exactly, that's the plan. Everything's a stepping stone, so we'll get there. But I think probably we can wrap it up at this point, guys. Like I said, unless anybody has any last second questions, I doubt it. How does spot nose pies look? That's a question for Sal. Because I can't remember. Do they suck make a mostly white snake where you just get the head pattern?
It's mostly white. Some of them do have a little bit of and it does look cool when they do have.
Yeah, because the spot nose head pattern is beautiful.
It's sick. I believe Enchi does bring a bit back, but I don't.
That's what I was gonna say. I think there's some combos I've heard. Is it Mojave spot nose pie?
Mojave might bring some of it back.
That might bring. I think I want to say, and I might be remembering that because I feel like somebody just talked about this. It was probably Billy or it was probably Billy. That was just talking about this. But I'm pretty sure it's a mostly white snake, like you said.
I will be.
They're still cool.
To see. I will say on the final notes here that I am very interested to see what Pinstripe is going to start doing in pie, because I think Pinstripe is doing a very similar thing to what Enchi does, except I kind of like the clear saddles of it. I love, don't get me wrong, I love Enchi pies. They're one of my favorites, but I'm really curious to see what Pinstripe's going to start doing. I think it's going to be a really good direction to start adding some more pattern.
Yeah. So. One last thing before we close this out. I'm going to close this out on an interesting note, if I can. Well, never mind. I won't worry about it. I was going to take my camera over and just show you guys. So that, at the start of this, I was asking some questions about, my male, he might be, too thin to pair. Well, they're locked up.
Yes.
so in the probably, it probably took about an hour and a half. I think I said within an hour he'll be locked. Well, yeah, they're locked up right now. So that's great news.
That's
So
awesome, man. Yes.
good news for that project, and I'll reference back to this when I get eggs from them. So
Yeah, dude. Seriously, that'll be awesome.
all right, thank you everybody that tuned in. I appreciate you guys for your time. Sal, I don't know if you've got anything that you want to close. Did you guys just hear that?
Was that?
That was a snake fart. That scared the crap out of me. I was like, what was that?
That was so loud.
That was a
Definitely
really,
heard it.
yeah. Even while I was talking, because I was like, that was really loud.
I don't even have to say anything. I mean,
Nah.
that was.
We'll end it on that. Thanks, guys. Everybody have a great night.
Have a good one, guys.